Welcome to another podcast about geek culture in a medium already saturated with everything nerds love and crave. It's the Lunatic Parade Podcast. Fuck this, let's do it! Do it!
All right, we are golden, so we are rolling, sir. Go ahead.
We're here with Trent.
Hey, what's up?
Stormy.
Hey, what's up, nerds?
Bob.
Howdy.
And me, Curt, your favorite.
Wait a minute, how do you determine that you're the favorite?
Because
Because he's the one saying it.
everything I like is good.
Right on, man. Yeah, we're here for another episode, man. Excited to see you guys. You guys are the highlight of my week. So, except, well, okay, let me rephrase that. My
Sex is the highlight of
How
your week.
bad
My-
is your week?
My wife is my wife is the highlight of my everyday. But this
Okay.
together takes a very close second for the week. So
All right.
Oh, dude, I love Thursdays. No offense, honey, but podcasting takes the cake.
well then, I see how I rate.
Right after all of us.
Exactly right. So what are we going to talk about this week, huh? It's been an interesting week.
Oh, dude, we got so much cool shit to talk about today.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So
Who's going to start? You?
I'll get started. So I want to make an announcement.
Oh,
Marvel's 80th anniversary is the 31st. So I know that we do talk about a lot of Marvel stuff on here. However, half of our podcast, we are kind of saying, Happy birthday, Marvel!
Happy
Birthday, dear Marvel. Happy birthday to you. How do we always end up singing in one of these
should
I
podcasts?
don't know.
Sing every
and,
podcast
and it's
and then-
spontaneous. Like, we just synced up and, like, there it was.
Driving our listenership. The funny thing is, we never sing together when the mics are off. There's a microphone in front of us. Something at a barbershop out there. What in the fuck?
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
So I'll get it started off, and I am talking about the evolution of Storm. Yes, Stormy Storm. So no questions on why I decided to pick Storm. But
So when you say evolution of Storm, define that for me.
okay, evolution of Storm from the time her story begins to the time that she is picked up through the X-Men.
Okay,
So,
so
like, I'm talking about evolution. So, from the time that her parents were killed to the time she was a goddess in Africa to the time she went to school in America and got her degree, and then she saved somebody publicly, and that's how Xavier found her through Cerebro. So,
Okay.
I'm
So
talking about from the time her story begins in the comics to X-Men.
okay.
So I don't know a whole lot about Storm, but wasn't she part of Wakanda there for a while?
She was. She
Okay.
was. She was actually considered a goddess because Storm has. I'm gonna fuck this word up, but it's psionic abilities. Psionic abilities.
It couldn't be any worse than fruitation.
Ooh,
I'll
so
go
it's,
venture to say that there's nothing better than fruitcake. That fucking pit coupled with that, man. I opened that up. I nearly
know.
fell out of bed laughing.
Exactly.
so
It's a bust my stitches, Trent. You motherfucker. Fucking weaponized joke.
I know, right?
So, because of her ability, she is able to manipulate Mother Nature around her. So if there's water vapor or the electricity coming or little bits of wind or anything that has to do Mother Nature wise, she can manipulate it. She can also stop it. So when she went to Wakanda,
Stop it.
yeah. So when she went to Wakanda, she stopped a major rain flood, and that is what sparked her to be the weather goddess or rain goddess or whatever they held her to.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, if somebody were to show up today that could control the weather, goddess. I mean, that's what would people think? Like, people would be like, well, you must be some sort of extra fucking celestial kind of being to be able to do that, man. I've always loved Storm.
I thought she married into the royal family there.
She did. She married Black Panther.
Yeah, she married
for a very brief time.
Yeah, there was a period of time where she married Black Panther.
Well, let's not talk about her divorce. That's just rude.
She took half of Wakanda.
One of the things I find really interesting about her was I love her childhood story, and I love how they worked her trauma into her character, like, because she was in that building collapse as a kid.
It was an her parents were killed in Cairo in an earthquake, and she was trapped in it, and that is what made her claustrophobic. So Storm is a very you always see her like keep her manner about herself. She is always calm. She is always like, but in reality, Storm is actually not a calm person.
Yeah.
She is very much like Bruce Banner, where if she gets angry, shit'll start lighting up around her. Like, so Storm, a lot of people misunderstand Storm as being like the well-reserved kind of, but she has to make herself that way, otherwise bad shit's gonna happen.
Right.
So with her claustrophobia, if she is in a tight space or closed off space, it doesn't matter how calm she is, she will automatically like spark shit up.
Which makes sense, because if you think about how trauma affects people, I mean, she essentially has PTSD. You know what I mean? Like, and I just think it's really interesting that this is one of the things I love about Marvel, is they really deep dive into like these kind of parts of a character. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying DC doesn't.
Their characters are all human.
Yeah, exactly.
None of them are perfect.
Exactly. They all have some kind of flaw, you know, and I love how they portrayed that. I very distinctly remember an issue of X-Men, I can't remember which one, but they also did it in the cartoon too, where like she was in an environment, the X-Men were out doing something, and like they were inside of a building that started coming down around her, and she just lost her fucking shit, dude, because she just immediately transported back to that earthquake where her parents were killed. And like, I love Marvel for that reason. I love the fact that like DC characters are awesome. I'm not denying it. Batman is one of the greatest characters ever. Joker,
love the Bat.
He has a little trauma there too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, Joker's probably my favorite villain. But I mean, I just think, like you said, Marvel to me, and I don't know if this is like the influence of Stan Lee on their works or what, but they're much more relatable characters for me. I don't know why.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the way they're written, they just come across much more relatable for me.
That is something that they did not from the outset. That's part of what I want to talk about, not to railroad your Stormathon, but from the 30s when they began up through almost to 1960, it's largely forgettable titles and characters. I mean, Cap was there, Human Torch, even Vision, early incarnations of them. But for the most part, it was terrible space comics and a whole shitload of Western, like, P.D. McHorsefucker, the singing cowboy. It was just a bunch of terrible fucking comics.
Right.
Until the 60s, when they began to introduce these characters,
hallucinogens,
hallucinogens,
and some part of it was they made relatable characters like Tony Stark and Peter Parker. Some part of it would endear to you. They're fuck ups. They fuck shit up all the time and make wisecracks about it. Like, you didn't see that in DC, and that was really. There weren't a lot of superheroes in Marvel Comics, but throughout the 50s, DC was killing it with Justice League and the Flash, and they had it all. But what Marvel did was, they made them absolutely more human, and their first superhero group was the Fantastic Four, which is a fucking, you look at that comic and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
because up until then you look at the other like DC, like Shazam and these like super, they didn't even have suits. You look at the first comics, they didn't even have fucking suits on. And what was different about them was too, they didn't have secret identities. They're like, fuck it, dude, we're superheroes.
Right.
Like, they were the first ones that come out and go, we have a big tower up there with a fucking 4 on it. They come at me, motherfucker. Yeah. And they were weird as shit because you had one, they didn't have costumes. One of them is a goddamn monster. Yeah. That's the first superhero that's like, I hate myself. We're like, what the fuck? That's Thing. Wait, is a superhero?
Yeah,
it's like a rock dude. He hates himself. And they hated each other too. They were always squabbling. You fucking son of a bitch, Human Torch. Like, they were constantly squabbling. They had grudges. it was a jacked up group, but you'd read that comic and you'd start to go, I don't, you know what, that's a lot like my family or me and my friends, dude. That'd be us. We all of a sudden got superpowers. We'd be at each other's throats.
Oh, yeah, right?
We'd be fucking with each other like the Torch and Thing do all the time.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And I love, too, how they did that in the... See, a lot of people are not fans of those first two Fantastic Four films. I loved them.
I liked them.
I thought they were well received.
Great.
Didn't they do well? Like, they did well and people liked them, right?
They did all right. They did well because they were good comic book movies, but like the online, the nerd community online just like pans the fuck out of them. And I'm like, I don't understand why. I'm like, dude, number one, fucking Chris Evans and fucking whatever that fucking dude's name who was in the Shield, who plays the Thing. Those two guys. What the fuck
God, when I can't fucking remember.
Yeah. I can't think of his name right now. I'm terrible.
That guy.
The bald guy.
Yeah.
No, the way those two go at it, like in the first two seasons. Johnny, come here. You know what I mean? It's fucking great. And I love those movies, man, because they had that piece to it. Now, do I agree they could have done Doom better? Fuck yeah.
I did Silver Surfer, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer was good. I hated Galactus in it, though.
Well, yeah, Galactus made me angry because Galactus is not a giant cloud.
No.
Nope.
Galactus is a big person. He's not a giant cloud. That was horrible. But
And I'm going to talk about Galactus later.
all right, awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. The surfer was very cool and I dug it. But yeah, I really like that, you know, like all of a sudden like Thing would be sitting there and fucking out of nowhere a little fireball would come out and hit him in the face and he's like, fucking Johnny, chasing him around the room, you know.
Yeah.
And like the Sue Storm and Reed Richards thing and like, are we gonna get married? Are we not gonna get married? And the fucking wedding keeps falling apart and like all that shit. You know, I loved that they added that in those movies. But I hope that now that unfortunately last podcast I expressed some of my problems with Disney. I'm not going to go there again in this one. But
well, if you do, then we know what I'm going to say.
Speaking of Disney,
Fruitation?
they did release something saying that they will not put out an R-rated show.
Disney Plus will have 0 R-rated content, which means we're not going to get the fucking goddamn Daredevil or Punisher or any of that shit we had on Netflix. So we lose all those great shows because Disney fucking sucks.
Fuck you, Disney.
Oh, now hold on.
And they've already removed them from Netflix. So where are we going to be able to find them?
Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. You could probably find them online.
Oh, you can definitely go to you can pick
You
them
would
up
never illegally torrent them, I promise, but you could probably find them online.
Dark Web, we're looking at you.
Right? But yeah, you know, so anyways, back to Storm though. Sorry, we didn't mean to derail you from Storm.
It's okay. I can share.
I love
I'm in a sharing mood today.
I love the Storm character, man. She's definitely one of my favorites. Like I think anybody that can control the weather is powerful as fuck.
One of the main reasons why I chose Storm Evolution was because a lot of people don't know this about her, but after her parents died, it's not like Batman where she was adopted and had all this shit, or like anybody else, you know, your parents die, you get adopted or someone takes you in. She was not. She survived on her own as she was a child thief.
Yeah.
So she grew up on her own after her parents died. So
yeah, she was a street kid.
Yeah, she was, and she was a thief. She was a rogue.
Yeah.
D&D. She was a rogue.
Yeah, she was. Could you imagine being a rogue with those kind of powers? Lock, freeze.
I'm just going to fly to the top of this building and escape pursuit. Don't mind me.
Exactly.
Right?
And she did not know she had mutant powers until later on in life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
well, most of them
imagine being on your own and then all of a sudden you make lightning fly all around.
Right.
You.
Well, if I remember correctly, a lot of the mutants in the Marvel universe don't. It usually coincides with
a lot of
puberty.
those superheroes, period, in the Marvel universe that sets them apart from DC and those other characters. But they weren't born with it.
Yeah.
They never intended to be superheroes for the most part.
Right.
And you know what makes their story compelling is how they've reacted to what it has been thrust upon them.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. And
Well, if you think about it, Wonder Woman didn't know she was special until she left the island.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. You know, that's very
Because
true.
that everybody could do all of that.
Right,
Yeah.
but she was raised with, at least in the movie version of it, that they were being trained to be warriors to fend off the be-all,
defend.
end-all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not wrong, though, most mutant powers show up and coincide with puberty, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that how that usually is in the books? Like when they hit puberty is when the mutant gene kicks in or whatever else. So
Yeah.
but I do like that. I agree with you. Like it's very much it's the same reason I love Tana's half elven. You know what I mean? It's that idea that they never wanted to be this, and now they're given this gift, and how do they react with it? Like where do they go with it? You know?
Well, I tell you, your story about Storm actually reminds me that I had the opportunity. I visited Cairo.
Nice.
I was in
wow.
that city. Nope. Don't go there.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck that. It's terrifying.
Yeah, I've heard that actually.
You know, it's a shithole. And you're just swarmed with beggar children. And the
Yeah.
notion, you know, that story of, you know, her growing up on the streets like that, it's very real in a way. We have poverty in this country.
Right.
But
Oh, yeah.
You aren't swarmed with beggar children with lice jumping off their head and they're
Right.
fucking starving. Like, I mean, you know, it could be a work because a lot of places that we went, they know that tourists are there with money. You know what I mean? Because you get the impression you're just being swindled and hustled at every
Right.
step that you're there because they know you have money. But when you look at these stinky
Boy,
little
are they
kids,
wrong.
it will crush your heart. You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not a fun trip.
Yeah, my friend Katie, she went to Cairo with her dad. They went to Egypt for like 3 weeks. I don't know, it's probably about a decade ago.
Yeah.
And she was really concerned about like, you know, you have to be careful over there. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
she
yeah.
had to
Her
worry
camera
about-
got stolen, didn't
her
it?
camera got stolen. Like, you know, she was told you don't ever go anywhere without like her dad with her. Like,
And I was there with the United States government, and they
Yeah.
told me emphatically, we don't have diplomatic immunity. So if you screw up here, we can't help you.
Right,
You're
you're
going to be in an
fucked.
Egyptian jail,
Yeah.
and you really don't want to be an American in the Egyptian jail.
right? Yeah, exactly.
You would
dude.
look like, you know, the cartoon where those dudes are fucking starving and they turn and look at each other and they both look like hot dogs or something. Like that's, I would look like a fucking pork chop in that jail. Like 23-year-old Curt, cute as a bug with a hairless ass. That would have been the belle of the ball in that fucking prison.
Oh, I just had an image painted in my head that I'm never going to get rid of now. You know? But yeah, dude. So good choice in Storm, man. I like that.
I love Storm.
Yeah, she's definitely one of my favorites.
Yes.
See that story? All I heard was, "Boy, you got a pretty mouth."
Yeah, I know, right? You look fine or new.
You got to do it in like, I don't know, an Egyptian hillbilly voice. I don't know what that is.
What is Egyptian hillbilly like?
I don't know that I can do that.
I saw it. I will tell you that. Woo-wee.
Right,
Not a lot of shoes and teeth in some of the areas that you're going to. It's
right,
like,
right. Exactly.
You know.
So I think, Curtis, you had a topic. What makes Marvel better than DC?
Well, what sets them apart? So what sets them apart? Because you would argue who's better. But yeah, I think
Image.
everybody at this table always preferred Marvel in that way.
Actually, I am a DC girl
She
all
is.
the way.
Yeah.
I think the movies are better, but comic-wise, I'm a DC girl.
The Marvel characters, they immediately more relatable because they dealt with real world problems. They absolutely
Yeah.
did. Whereas the DC heroes were always looking at those problems from an outsider's point of view. Spider-Man's in that shit. You
Oh,
know what
yeah,
I mean?
dude,
He's
yeah.
got to make fucking rent. There's not one DC character that's like, shit, man, I got to make rent.
Yeah.
My boss is a dick. Like, there's not one. There's not
Yeah.
fucking one.
That's a valid point, man. That's
You know
a
what I
pretty
mean?
valid point.
At the closest you get is Superman. Like, God, what's Lois doing now? Like,
I
where'd
know,
you
right?
go? You know, but you know, he can handle it. He's fucking Superman. But Marvel didn't go through that transformation until after DC was a world beater.
Yeah.
And boy, did they blow past them. And they blew past them in a way that I'm gonna say this too. DC has some characters like Plastic Man. But otherwise, Marvel's got them beat hands down on humor.
Oh, yeah,
For the
by
first
far.
time, funny books were actually, I don't know, fucking funny when superheroes are concerned.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? They were hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, like those early DC books and everything were very just what everybody thinks of. It's all that 30s Superman TV show. You know what I mean? The da 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 da. We're here to save the world. You know what I mean? And it was like Marvel did add like an air of cynicism and kind of and social commentary in a way too to comics, and really started bringing that darker side of humor out.
Yeah.
And they kind of added the camp. You know what I mean? They're the ones that kind of made comics campy and funny, and I think that them, like Kevin Feige, grabbed a hold of that. Well, Joss Whedon first, but Kevin Feige and Joss Whedon grabbed a hold of that in the Marvel films, and that was the differentiation there. Like that first Avengers movie when I went and saw it captured that fucking humor of the Marvel comics perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely
Oh, yeah.
perfectly.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, that scene with the fucking Hulk and Thor after they take down that big dragon thing and they're in the bank and he just goes whap and punches him and Thor goes flying off. I'm like, I must have pissed myself laughing in the fucking theater, dude. I talked about that for days afterwards. You know
what my favorite moment was when the Hulk falls. And that guy finds him and he's like, son, you got problems.
He's like, so are you an alien? No. Well, son, then you got a condition. That old guy, man, he just recently passed away, too. It was the guy, he was in Red Dawn. He played Patrick Swayze's father in Red Dawn. And, like, I love that guy as an actor, man. He just...
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton, that's it, yeah.
Yep. He's fucking amazing.
He's fucking awesome. I love that's one of my favorite scenes too.
Yeah.
Like, came out all green and naked as the day he born. Thought you could use some pants. So you an alien? No. Well, son, then you got a condition.
I saw a meme recently that spelled out some of that. If you look at both sides of that conflict in Civil War, at least movie wise,
Right.
On the one side with Cap and Bucky and that they're all okay.
Yeah.
The other side, Jesus Christ. Tony's dead. Rhodey's fucking paralyzed. The rest of them are all dead, except for Spider-Man, where they're like, well, now we don't know.
If you haven't seen Endgame yet, dude, then you
God damn it, Bob.
I work with 3 people that haven't fucking watched it. I'm like, are you fucking serious?
Wow.
If anybody of our listeners haven't seen Endgame yet, you deserve to have it spoiled for you at this point. It was only the highest grossing movie of all fucking time.
That come out in May?
Yeah, it came out in May, dude.
Okay, so not only did it come and go in theaters, but it's actually available now to rent or buy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the girls at work actually owns it on DVD. Still hasn't watched it. I'm like, I kind of hate you. I need you to go home and watch that, and then come back and talk to me.
Yeah, but so I have to agree. Like, that does really distinguish Marvel apart from the rest, man. And I think, I think DC has caught up since then, but I think DC went a much darker route. You know what I mean? Like DC kind of took, I think when Marvel advanced past them with the humor and kind of that kind of stuff, I think it would have probably been in like the late 70s and 80s. DC kind of started going this more dark route with things, with stuff like Swamp Thing and like the darker shit we've seen from Batman, Frank Miller stuff.
Certainly.
Come on,
yeah, but what DC did, like most importantly, not just it was dark, but was just make these characters relatable because they were struggling with a wild different shit. Tony Stark dealt with alcoholism.
Yeah.
Good luck putting that on any one of the DC heroes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
A
yeah.
harrowing struggle with addiction is nothing to end up in a funny book.
Right.
But those are the things that grabbed me early on with Marvel.
Well, look at the Hulk, man. That's straight up anger. Uncontrollable anger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Banner's not perfect either. You get the impression sometimes, you know what? He kind of likes it.
He enjoys being the Hulk. He likes it. Yeah.
He's made plenty of errors in there based around that Hulk is really an indispensable part of him.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Now, see, I'm not, yes, everybody knows I'm a Batman nerd. Like, everybody knows I'm a Harley Quinn nerd, and that's not really why I like DC. I like DC. If you take Marvel and DC and put them their comic stories, not movies, but their comic stories side by side, DC will always take the darker route. Marvel will always take the campy route. Now, there is times that I like to read funny things, and I will open up a Marvel comic. But I like darker stuff. All the shows that I watch are dark.
Yeah.
The books I read are dark.
Right.
So for me liking DC, and no disrespect, Marvel, happy birthday to you. But I like my comics a little darker, and DC takes cake.
But the thing is that DC didn't get that way until after Marvel slingshotted past them.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Marvel started adding relatability to their characters and making their characters more human, and people were able to read those books and go, I see myself in that person. Like, that is when DC went, okay, we have to do something. We can't be this carbon.
Yeah, Batman's not what Batman was past the 80s.
God, no.
If you read anything from the
Batman's very
70s
dark.
and the 60s, he's the world's greatest detective.
Exactly.
And he's got goofy as fucking shit you've ever seen.
The books from the 60s and 70s are literally the TV show from the 60s and 70s.
Right, you watch Super Friends?
Yeah.
That's fucking Batman and Robin.
Yeah, he didn't get dark until the 80s, and then like Frank Miller took him to a whole different place, which I love Frank Miller's take on it. You know what I mean? But
I always love the exchange in Alex Ross's Kingdom Come.
Right.
Superman fucking goes down to Batman's lair, and he goes, Bruce, I know you're down here. And Batman just goes, I bow to your superior wisdom. It's just a great little...
Right, exactly.
Really?
Yeah,
You
right.
know I'm down here.
Thank you, master of the obvious.
So, Bob, we haven't heard from you yet. Mr. Quiet over there in the corner.
I think he's busy. I think he's actually fucking texting during our podcast.
Ooh, hand me a dice.
He
I'll
is
check the dice.
texting during our podcast.
I am not texting. I was researching what an alpha and what the difference was between an alpha and omega level mutant.
Oh, okay. Well, let us know what it is then.
As soon as I figure the fuck out, I'll let you know.
Okay, so
seems like the omega level ones are higher powers. Actually, Storm is actually listed as an alpha.
Yeah.
So she's a class 4 versus a class 5.
Yeah, when you
Right.
get that goddess placed next to your name, they'll let you know you got a few tricks.
Right, but like when they're talking,
okay, a lot of people, here's another thing that people misunderstand about Storm. They think because she is not an elementalist, she does not control the weather. She can control weather, dude. She can pull particles.
But
she can make it rain.
she's not an elemental. She's not an elemental.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of people confuse her because they say she can't control the weather because she's not an elementalist. But she has a what is it? Psionic?
Well, psionic.
Psionic. Now, so she can make lightning appear because there's always electricity in the air.
Right,
She
but
can make it rain
I don't-
because there's always water
I don't
vapor
understand
in
what you
there.
mean by people say that she can't control the weather because she's not an elementalist. They're 2
I've
completely
heard-
separate things.
Okay, I've heard a lot of people say that she's not as good because
I'm curious
she's
who
not
would,
an elemental.
Oh, not as good.
Yeah, because-
okay, that's very different than she can't. You said she can't control the
No,
weather. That's what you had said.
okay.
I was very lost.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's
He's really good at predicting it.
A lot of people say she is not an elementalist.
She's not.
Okay, people associate elementalists with controlling weather.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand that just because she's not an elementalist, that she can still control the weather.
First off, elementalists have nothing to do with weather. They have absolutely zero to do with weather.
Elementalists can control the surroundings around them.
No,
Correct.
elementalists can control earth, fire, water, and air.
Okay, well that's basic.
All 4 of those things make up weather. So she technically is an elementalist that controls all of them.
Okay, you're getting too technical. And just let me say, all y'all motherfuckers out there who think that just because she's not an elementalist, she can't control the weather. She can control the weather.
I have to read these places where you found where people are saying she can't control the weather. Her name is fucking Storm. Like her job is
I don't know what she would
raises
do.
wind, brings in snow, throws lightning bolts. How is that not controlling
I'm pretty
the
sure
weather?
that's all weather. Just saying.
Delivers the shittiest line in the first X-Men movie.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I was doing some research. What day was it? Yesterday, on just making sure I didn't miss anything about her. Like her grow, I guess not evolution, but her grow up story. And I found quite a few articles who listed her as one of the least powerful superheroes because she wasn't technically an elementalist.
Yeah, see, that's ridiculous.
That person's an idiot.
Yeah, whoever did that's
well, there
fucking...
was a couple of them.
Yeah, well, all of them are fucking idiots.
Because literally, according to the website, she's listed as a Power 4 mutant, which is an alpha level, alpha and omega.
Exactly. Well, I know like the omega level mutants are level 5s, and that's like Jean Grey and shit like that.
Those are world class powers.
Yeah, those are like because Jean Grey is fucking ridiculously powerful. And then we just recently found out that Maura McTaggart, right, or Maura what's her name?
Moira Mattek.
What the fuck ever.
Yeah, like, that theory about her being reincarnated.
Yeah, they found out that
really fucking cool.
dude, that makes her like the most powerful mutant because essentially she is reborn over and over again with keeping her memories.
Yeah.
So if you think about knowledge as power, that woman's more powerful than anybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Jean Grey as the Phoenix only ranks as number 6.
Oh, really?
I found that surprising.
That surprises me too because the Phoenix is fucking cosmically powered.
But I did like that list Bob is talking about. Bob, go ahead and introduce your list.
Yeah.
That's your subject.
So it's listed as the 15 most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe. And a lot of them we already know because you got Scott Summers there, who's
started 15 and worked
okay, that'd be Vulcan.
Okay, 15. Vulcan.
Vulcan.
Who the fuck is Vulcan?
Gabriel Summers.
Yeah.
Scott's brother.
Okay. What does anybody know what Vulcan does?
Yeah, he is able to manipulate all forms of energy, including magic, at will.
Whoa.
He was once the Emperor of the Shi'ar. He's fought against the X-Men, the Inhumans, and the Starjammers simultaneously.
Wow, so he can manipulate... Hold on, I want to talk about him for a minute. So he can manipulate any form of energy, including magic. That's pretty fucking powerful,
yeah,
dude.
That should be up
it's a
there kind
MacGuffin.
of high.
All it is like Marvel occasionally will write itself into a corner, and they're like, "Oh, fuck, are we gonna do about that? I mean, what are we gonna do about that? We do whatever the fuck we want." Scott Summers has a brother who's an asshole. He can just show up and like, nope, that doesn't work.
It says he's got control over all 7 elements: fire, earth, electricity, wind, water, darkness, and light.
Damn.
And he ranks at number 15.
Wow.
Damn.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see who's number 14 is.
Hulk's son, Scar.
Hulk had a son?
In like one of the
Alternate reality, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Scar possesses even greater strength than his father. With a single punch, he cracked the armor of the Juggernaut and sent him into outer space.
Are you serious?
Damn.
Can you imagine cracking Juggy's fucking armor?
Holy
Like,
shit, I thought his armor was indestructible, I thought.
No, apparently, that was their way of villainy. No, I don't like it when they do that. When they're like, he's so powerful, he cracked this, and you're like, no.
Wait a minute.
They told us it's indestructible.
Right.
We watched him blow through.
Well, plus, that's always been the big discussion about the unstoppable force versus the indestructible object.
Right.
With Hulk versus Juggernaut. Like, that's the whole idea.
The answer is Hulk's son.
Apparently, it's Scar.
I don't like that.
Did they really have to name him after the bad guy from The Lion King?
Well, it's Skaar.
Okay, so Scar.
Right.
So in other words, Brenda needs to have a baby.
Exactly, right?
So
Jesus.
he
Scar with jazz
survived a fall from outer space and has a healing factor superior to Wolverine.
Damn. That's impressive.
Damn.
That's very impressive.
And
but
he's only number 14.
Yes.
But that whole thing about Juggy's armor, I just want to touch on this again.
Kurt's fired up about this shit.
They've done this in the comic world and in the wrestling world.
Right.
Back in the day when like Dallas Page hit the fucking Diamond Cutter, which was Jake the Snake's DDT.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
They only dusted it off when they were like, all right, motherfucker, this is my finisher, and you're done.
Yeah.
But nowadays, somebody will hit that, and then they'll go to pin, and they'll kick out of it.
Right.
And you're like, no, you don't kick out of that. Like, they just devastated you with this move that grabs you by your fucking head and slams you down by the neck, and you're supposed to be like 1, 2, 3 out.
Right.
But comics is doing that too. This like, look, Juggernaut is fucking, when he gets moving, man,
He can't be stopped. Yeah.
He can't be stopped. So to be like, oh yeah, but this dude came down and he was like, he stopped him.
Well, I guess
that's shitty.
Yeah, but I guess so at some point in time that's got to happen. You know what I mean? Like, he can't just be the unstoppable,
But for like a throwaway character on fucking Hulk's son?
Well, that's kind of,
Are you kidding me?
I don't know. Yeah, okay.
If they came out with something truly fucking badass, I don't think Hulk's son is that.
This kind of reminds me of Legacies. Nature always finds a way.
Yeah.
There's always something out there that will counteract.
Right. Which that's a great show, by the way.
Absolutely.
We'll take a short pause on your list just to talk about that for a minute. Have you ever watched Legacies? Mm-mm. Have you ever watched Vampire Diaries or the originals?
No.
Okay, then we can't talk about any of this.
First off, though, you need to watch Vampire Diaries is good. It's the show that got us. I'll tell you my Vampire Diaries story because it's fantastic. Like I was working at home when I was working from home in Northport. I worked out of the bedroom. Michelle was in bed. This was during the whole Twilight time period. You know, when Twilight was so fucking popular.
I'm sorry.
And Michelle, like, she put on the show. She's like, it's called The Vampire Diaries. I'm like, great. More sparkly fucking vampires. That's all I need in my life.
No, they were not sparkly.
Hold on. I know. I'm sitting there and I'm typing and I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, whatever. I put on my headphones. She's got sparkly vampire. And I look up and I took my headphones off and I go, did he just rip her heart out? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, on fucking TV? Yeah. I'm like, holy shit. Started watching this show, dude. It's fucking amazing. I mean, it's
This is Vampire Diaries, Legacies, or what?
Well, Vampire Diaries is where it all starts from.
Okay.
And then Vampire Diaries moves in. I won't go into too much detail. They introduce characters that become the originals. And then in the originals, you get introduced to the tribrid. Hope. The tribrid, who is... She's a witch. A hybrid between a vampire and a werewolf.
I fucking hate that.
Dude, no. She's fucking awesome.
I hate that.
She's badass.
She's badass, dude.
Those two things don't mix. Like, they don't mix.
You have to understand the story.
Yeah,
you have to watch the story.
Yeah.
You have to understand the story.
The way they make it work, it makes sense.
Well,
It's
that
really
fucking
cool.
bell better be than whatever, what's that, Underworld?
Oh, yeah. No, it's much better than Underworld,
Like,
dude.
nobody in a laboratory's doing this.
No.
One's a curse, and the other one is you're undead,
Right.
so
But-
it's like an affliction.
But they go, like, they trace all the way back to the origins of both the vampire and werewolves, and they are directly tied to each other of how they were created.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But they're not the same thing. And then, like, Klaus, who is the main bad guy, he's the first hybrid, and they do a really great job of explaining it in those shows. Like, I agree with you. I'm like, those two things don't belong together, but the way they do it in that universe is pretty fucking amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
There's quite literally one of them.
What was the show on?
It was on CW.
It was on CW. Yeah.
You can find it on Netflix.
Yeah, it's on
But
Netflix.
all of them are on Netflix, and I highly recommend them.
But Legacies follows his daughter, and it's like what I loved about Legacies because all the Vampire Diaries and the originals talked a lot about, you know, it was always either some evil witch or some ancient vampire or something like that coming to that they have to. That's the whole season. That's the villain for the season, and they have to figure out how to survive through this massive thing. What I loved about Legacies was they got away from that and went with more traditional monsters. So, like in Legacies, they fight a Medusa,
and a dragon.
and a dragon, and like a mummy, and like all this really cool shit. And they're all teen shows, so you have to take them with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? But they're really good. They're really fucking good. I think you would dig them, dude. I think
You're going to have to slog through some Vampire Diaries first.
Yeah.
I just want to do monster nerd out for a moment. Gorgon is the monster.
Yes.
Medusa was a Gorgon.
Yeah, sorry,
Yes.
Gorgon.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say. I just always think of Medusa. Yeah,
Right.
so.
That's your
And they
monster minute,
actually-
and now you know.
In
knowing
Legacies,
is half
they
the battle.
actually
Go, Joe.
introduce a Medusa.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They introduced
Yeah.
a Gorgon because
Yeah.
Medusa was the name of a Gorgon.
She
That's
got
what he was
fucked
trying to say.
over, man.
Yeah,
Same
oh yeah, she
difference.
You
is.
read that original story, man.
Yeah, oh yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
Curt, if you haven't watched it, I definitely suggest like when you got free time, sit around and just the Vampire Diaries. You have to remember it's a teen show, so there's lots of love and romance. But just give it a
But
little bit
no
of time
actual titties.
because
No titties.
once
But in the later seasons, like after like season 3 and up, it gets more adultish.
Well, once Damon Salvatore shows up, the show changes considerably, and that guy is probably one of my favorite fictional characters ever created.
Really?
You'll like Damon, but you'll love Klaus.
Yeah, your Klaus.
Yeah.
Klaus is my favorite out of all
Klaus
that
is
universe.
I wanted really, really bad to get into True Blood.
Yeah.
Okay. I did watch the first and second season. I can't get behind a vampire named Bill.
Yeah, right.
Like fucking every time I'm like, I can't believe this is a sticking point with me,
Right.
but fuck
See,
that.
I haven't watched Vampire Diaries, but I've read all the books.
Yeah.
What? Really? Were they a book first?
I'm sorry, True Blood. I haven't watched
Yeah.
any of the True Bloods,
Right.
but I read all the books.
Right.
Yeah.
By Charlotte.
Now, from Charlotte Harris. Charlene Harris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now she came out with another season not another season, but another series of books that I wanted to read.
The
What were those?
Midnight Texas.
Yes, And they actually canceled that fucking show.
Yeah, they
dude.
did 2 seasons of a TV show for it. It was really fucking good. But yeah, dude, like I said, it's a little bit teeny. You'll have to sit through the teeny parts in Vampire Diaries. You need to watch it first.
I'm not doing a goddamn thing for the next couple of weeks. So
it introduces everything. So the Vampire Diaries introduces everybody, and it's graphic. Like necks get broken, arms get ripped off, fucking
You said hearts get ripped out of chests.
Hearts get ripped out of chests. Like
They quite often rip people's heads off.
Yeah.
Just straight. It's like so. And this is a teen show on the CW. I'm like going. I'm not sure how, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all a metaphor. Like you can tell whoever wrote the book, Stephanie Harris. I want to say Harris, but that's not it. Wrote the books, and you could tell it's all a metaphor for alcoholism. Because that's the whole thing. Like, no, it is because the vampires in the show are either somebody who are capable of drinking blood and surviving, or they're a ripper, where like the taste of blood makes them have to drink uncontrollably until they drink through someone's head. Like they will drink until their head actually comes off. Yeah, dude. So it's all a metaphor for alcoholism. Like the whole thing is like you can totally tell. But it's a great show, great story. So I didn't mean to interrupt your top 10 there, dude. I just had to bring it up or top 15.
Oh yeah.
Now hold on to your skivvies.
For number 13,
Odin
is number 13.
Yes.
The All Father.
The All Father. Yeah.
The like King of Asgard, Father of Thor.
Didn't crack top 10.
Damn, dude.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't think we need to discuss Odin much. We kind of know what he can do.
We know who the fuck Odin is. Yeah, exactly. So that's impressive. All right, give us number 12.
Hercules.
Hercules.
The one stat that they've got in here, it's like he's over 3,000 years old, the son of Zeus, physically the strongest character in the entire Marvel universe, stronger than both Hulk and Thor. He once pulled the entire island of Manhattan, which weighed 99 billion tons. He moved the island of Manhattan.
Right?
Yeah.
He moved it. Just pulled it. The sun's in my eyes. Let's move this.
I don't like the way the sun's hitting my balcony.
Right.
I can kind of get that because like Hercules is a demigod, so it's like he's not necessarily a full. I'm surprised Hercules is above Odin.
But he beat Odin.
Yeah,
right?
that's impressive.
That's dumb. You got no, it is. God, but the demigod.
Yeah.
Only because he's strong. Like Odin is far more clever.
Yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean?
True.
Like Odin would.
But if they got in a fist fight, Hercules would win.
No, Odin
can't pull the Isle of Manhattan.
No, but strength. I will take age and guile over strength any fucking day of the week. That's why Hulk gets his ass whooped.
I totally agree with you.
I was going to say, Zeus is over 3,000 years old, so he is also old.
But if you're just saying powerful, like is that it says powerful?
It says powerful.
Okay, so this is just about raw strength. This is my fucking like a stat.
I agree with you 100%, Curt, but it's that whole thing with yeah, sure, you're quicker, you're faster, you're sharper. Until he gets a hold of you.
Oh, yeah.
Because once he gets a hold of you, it's all over.
Yeah.
It's kind of like...
Was it Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Exactly. It's kind of like that scene with the mountain and the one guy from fucking from Dorne. And he's bouncing around and flipping like a maniac and fucking the mountain all up, and the mountain's half dead, grabs a hold of him and squashes his fucking head with his bare hands.
Right. Once I get a hold of you, you're toast.
You're done. Right. Exactly.
All right. Still haven't cracked top 10.
Okay, number 11.
Grandmaster. An Eternal didn't make the top 10.
Holy shit.
Jesus.
An Eternal didn't. And the Eternals, you know more about the Eternals than I do.
Yeah. Like they are like titans, basically.
Yeah, they're basically like
primordial.
They're like ancient celestial beings, right?
The little blurb on him: he's an eternal ancient being that cannot die, has supernatural physical characteristics, and the ability to bring the dead back to life. He's vastly intelligent and powerful.
Wow, and he didn't even crack the top 10?
Made 11, yeah.
Wow,
Jesus.
dude. This is a very interesting list.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where we land next.
Number 10.
Okay.
Galactus.
Galactus came in at number 10.
I hunger.
I can kind of agree with that, dude. Galactus is a giant planet eating titan.
Broccoli.
Fuck you, broccoli.
This'll do.
All right. Magus, Adam Warlock's son.
Oh.
Magus, not to be confused by his son, Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
yeah. I was a little confused there for a second.
above fucking Hercules and shit.
Let's see. He can become virtually any substance, any size, any shape and color. He's an immortal, can also teleport, but his powers fluctuate based on what form. At his most powerful, he split a star in two.
Holy
Damn.
shit.
That's impressive.
That's number 9.
Okay. Let's go. That's okay. I'm curious what now. I just want to know what number 1 is, but let's move the rest of the way up the list.
Curt, read that one for me.
This
Kurt, you need to do it.
Mikaboshi,
Mikaboshi.
Japanese god.
The Japanese god of evil and chaos.
Another god on the list.
A being greater than Odin. His powers include immortality, reality manipulation, stealth, strength, healing, endurance, shapeshifting, and more.
Wow. Never heard of him.
Nope.
Sidorak, number 7.
Who the fuck is Sidorak?
All I know about Sidorak is his name comes up in the Doctor Strange movie because he has the bands of Sidorak.
Right.
No, Sidorak, a powerful deity, also god, the strongest magical being in all of the Marvel universe. He's often the source of the elite magicians of the universe, including Doctor Strange. He's omnipotent with his crimson. He's omnipotent within his crimson cosmos.
Okay. So, like within his own universe, he's infallible.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
But yeah, the Iron Bands of Sidorak are he's the source of all magic for the Sorcerer Supreme.
Oh, cool. All right. Right on.
Nice.
So he's like the anti-Dormammu.
Number 6, Phoenix.
Phoenix, okay.
And it just it doesn't call it Jean Grey, it calls it Phoenix.
Yeah.
So
when
She possesses the power of it.
Yeah.
Which makes everybody who notices that shit their pants. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
no.
no,
What
fuck.
are we going to do with this?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
This is a
Which,
problem.
by the way, man, like I know we talked about it. We touched on it, I think, a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even last week. But if you haven't seen the Dark Phoenix movie, watch it.
I need to watch that one.
It is so good, man. Like I was really blown away.
So part of the way they rank these is based on who has beat who in a straight up fight.
Oh, okay.
And Phoenix has single-handedly taken out Galactus.
Yeah. Well, Phoenix is cosmically powered, so that makes sense to me. You know,
It can absorb energy, including the life force of a being or the energy of a sun.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But that was it.
I'd be interested to see what happens if Phoenix got her hands on one of the Infinity Stones, like the Stone of Power. You know, could you imagine that?
That's a wrap, folks.
One of the characters on here talks about being more powerful than Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Holy
Wow.
shit.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Keep going.
Number 5 is a child.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I know who this one is.
Franklin Richards.
Richards.
The son of Sue Storm and Reed Richards.
Really?
Yeah. He's a problem.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because even Reed's like, whoa, shit, what do we do with Frankie here?
So he's one of the rare Omega, and then this is what caused me to look up Omega level mutant.
Right.
Okay. Son of Reed Richards, Sue Storm. His ability to warp reality and control the fundamental forces of the universe. It's said his power equals that of the Celestials.
Wow.
And is quite possibly the strongest mutant to ever exist.
Yeah, you imagine that as a toddler?
As a toddler.
Can warp reality, dude? That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, hey, Ben, you got to babysit. Sue and I are going to go out for some Chinese food. Fuck you.
And he's had his powers since birth.
Right.
Oh,
Since
wow.
birth. So he was born like that. Well, the product of 2 mutants, that would make sense.
Two
Absolutely.
very powerful
Two
mutants,
very powerful
yeah.
mutants, yeah.
All right, number 4, Eternity.
Okay.
First appeared in Strange Tales 138. He's the twin brother of Infinity and the sibling of Death and Oblivion.
Holy shit.
He's the very embodiment of time, greater than Galactus. He can manipulate space, time, and reality.
Okay. He deserves number 4. I agree.
Number 3, The Living Tribunal.
The Living Tribunal. Okay.
And this is created by Stan Lee and Marie Severin and Herb Triumph. The Living Tribunal is so powerful that even Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet dares not engage him in combat. His power is absolutely limitless. He's able to erase entire realities from existence. However, the Living Tribunal has died by fighting number 2.
Okay. Well, who is number 2?
Beyonder.
The Beyonder. Nice.
Beyonder is.
See, I don't know much about this one.
Okay, Beyonder is the same thing. If you've watched Star Trek Next Generation,
Yeah, it's Q.
It's fucking Q.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. To me, when I read like Alan Moore's Watchmen, Doc Manhattan makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, and he started out as a human.
Right.
He started out as a human, but once you reach this like total ascension to godhood, why would you be concerned with the affairs of like superheroes and villains?
Right.
You know what I mean?
At that point, it's all just
you now
meaningless
get
to
to
you.
explore the cosmos at will.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And you would realize from that vantage point, these are just skirmishes. There are no great wars. This
They are
goes back and
ants.
forth, and they're ants, and you are a god.
Yeah,
Why you would be
exactly.
like, let's see what happens if I do this to tip the scales in that balance. You
Right.
already know it doesn't matter, I would suppose. But it does make for
Well,
good comics.
you know,
And
what I
he
loved
ranks number 2.
what I loved about Q, and you know, I love the reference to Q from Star Trek. What I loved about Q is Q was more of a curiosity for him. He was very impressed.
he was a prick.
Well, he was, but he was always. It always came across to me that he was very impressed with the human's ability to always persevere and always find a way to see the light side of things and come out on the right side of stuff. So he constantly challenged Picard
Well, that makes
by
sense.
putting him in situations to try to challenge his morality. And like I think for Q, it was more a curiosity for him. He's like, it was kind of like it's the theory behind like, you know, the Joker keeps doing shit to try to make Batman kill him because he wants to prove that
Right.
Batman's a killer just like he is.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Q is trying to do. Is Q's like trying to break the morality of Picard doing all that stuff, like trying to break the human will, the human desire to be good. You
I
know.
can see that. Yeah.
So I like that about that, but I do kind of agree with you. If you were this cosmic level being that could travel the cosmos at will, why would you be like, let's hang out on Earth for a while and watch a couple centuries? You know what I mean? Like, watch these idiots fucking fumble around and kill themselves. Like,
So he's a near omnipotent, vastly powerful. First appeared in Secret Wars #1. He's so strong that all Marvel Abstract's celestial supreme cosmic beings and the Living Tribunal are at his mercy. He is second only to #1, the one above all.
okay.
Who first appeared in Doctor Strange #13, the most powerful and most mysterious character in the Marvel Universe. He's believed to be the representation of the creators of Marvel and has taken the form of Jack Kirby.
That's awesome.
He is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent.
Wow.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of words that Stormy does not know what the fuck they mean.
He knows all, sees all, and can do all.
Again, I just want to say that those are MacGuffins for writers at Marvel. When they
Yeah.
write themselves in the corner, they go, "How are we getting out of this bucket of syrup?" And they're like, "Oh no, this guy's a god. He just comes in and
he can
fucking
do anything he wants. and
text a
problem
switch,
solved.
and the next thing you know, you're back
yeah,
again."
exactly.
It's literally Jack Kirby of the comic book going, oops.
right, exactly. Exactly, man.
That was #1.
That was a good list, man. I have to say, it was surprising to me. But, you know, it did make sense when we got to those top 5 or so. That totally all made sense
The
to
top
me.
5 are all effectively gods.
Yeah, exactly. Like beyond gods. You know what I mean? Like gods of gods almost. That made sense to me. Cool. All right. Well, right on. All right. I'll bring up one of my subjects this week. I can't remember what my subjects are going to be this week. What my subjects going to be this week? Do you remember? Do you have the list up?
I can.
Okay, so
Turn on my
let's.
phone.
I know what one of them was for sure, and that was
What was your Marvel topic?
my Marvel topic was. If we want to stay with the Marvel topics, I'll go ahead and do my Marvel topic. It was how have Marvel comics influenced your life? You know what I mean? Like, so for me, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because, like, I cut my teeth learning to read on Marvel comics, and you know, like my dad would help me out by bringing me comic books and stuff like that home whenever I was a kid, because I had a lot of trouble focusing and reading when I was very young. And then when I grabbed a hold of it, then my reading, it taught me to read, and like my potential to read just like skyrocketed because of comics. But like Marvel comics had a big influence on my life, because it was like looking at these characters who aren't perfect and are giving these wonderful gifts, making the correct decisions. Like as a kid, it was very formative for me. You know what I mean? Like Stan Lee taught morality to an entire generation of children. You know what I mean? Like if you look back at some of those old Stan Lee, I can't remember the Stan Lee soapbox, I think it was called, at the back. You know, he talks a lot about fucking, you know, not judging people because of their color, their race, their religion, their sex, their sexual orientation. I mean, obviously he didn't say that, but you know what I mean? Like, it was all about accepting people for who they were and not persecuting people for their differences, accepting people for their differences and all that kind of stuff. And for me, he taught me how to be a moral human being. I mean, obviously my family did too, but like being parts of those stories and seeing these people stand up and do what was right, even if it meant sacrificing their life, kind of gave me my moral compass as a child, you know, and I can never thank Marvel Comics enough for that. You know what I mean? Like, that really shaped me as a human being. I mean,
100%.
How'd they affect you?
I was raised in a church, and you know, you're raised with these Bible stories about being persecuted is good for you, and you have to weather that stuff. But those lessons fucking suck, man. Because like I would ask, you know, Sunday school teachers and everybody else, like, why is that important? They're like, well, that's what Jesus went through. So like, you're taught this crazy lesson that didn't make any sense because you're like, I don't know, it seems to work out for other people. Like, why can't it work out for me? Like, why do I have to be persecuted? Well, that's what you have to do. Like, they didn't do the abject lesson in that way that, like, reading Spider-Man comics as a little kid, because I was short and mouthy, and that guarantees you get a lot of fucking ass whoopings.
You were short?
Oh my God. You look at Eddie, yeah, it's crazy.
Because you're like a fucking giant now.
Yeah, I didn't hit a growth spurt until I was well after 16. Before then, if you look at me, I constantly look like I'm like Doogie Howser. Where I just kept getting a pass forward, but that's not the case at all. I just didn't grow.
Right.
But, you know, and so what separated Peter Parker from every other comic character before him was that, yeah, he's fucked. You know what I mean? But Peter handled it with the greatest sense of humor. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Girlfriend's down on him. Life is fucking hard. People are shitting all over him. They hate Spider-Man. You know what I mean? And it didn't faze that guy one bit because he had a sense of humor. And that's one thing that, hey, I'm not dogging you Christians or your Bible. It's a terrific book full of wealth of knowledge. But there ain't a fucking thing in there about a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Not one fucking scripture. Yeah. And it matters. It fucking matters.
There's no funny parts to the Bible.
Yeah, there's no funny parts to the Bible. There really isn't. There's one kind of story where Jesus tries to lay it out to people where they're like, he's infallible and he's perfect. And they were like, hey, dude, what's up with that? Like, you're infallible and you're perfect. Like, how come we keep screwing up? And he was like, oh, well, let me lay it out here. Ye of your father, the devil also, and then you're just going to do those lusts. They didn't like that, so they ran him out of town with the fucking rocks and shit. They're like, fuck out of here! He called us devils! That's the only story, and then, like, you can't laugh at that story because they're like, well, them people probably went to hell. Like, well, no, that's a reasonable reaction. He told you half demon shit.
Right. Fuck you.
Right? So even Jesus had a rough day for the whole cross thing. You know?
Right, exactly. Exactly, man. That's fantastic. What about you, Bob?
I had to look up this quote to make sure that I didn't fuck it up, but this is the one of the formative things that I got from Marvel growing up, and it's from Cap. Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right, even if the whole world is telling you to move, it's your duty to plant yourself like a tree, look them in the eye, and say, no, you move.
Wow. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
I'm like, and through Scouts, he was just kind of there, you know. Mm-hmm. He was the ultimate Boy Scout,
right?
I'm like, and there are a lot of people that, even Chris Evans said, he goes, when I was playing Cap, he was talking about a friend of his who was an Eagle Scout,
right?
He goes, I modeled how I'm playing him off of you.
Oh wow!
Which is kind of fucked up because I'm kind of formed my life around.
Yeah, right.
Around him.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that he modeled that after an Eagle Scout. It makes sense though, because he really is. He's Marvel's All-American Boy Scout. You know what I mean? That's 100% what Cap is. You know, he does represent that. You know, what I like about Cap too is like what happened like in the Civil War series. You know, where like
oh yeah,
he's even willing to say, you know what? No.
This is wrong.
This is wrong.
And I'm going to stand up for it.
I'm going to stand up for it. I'm going to stand up because it's wrong to do what we're doing.
Even if I'm on the wrong side of the law, I'm doing what's right.
I'll sacrifice like people's love for me. I'll sacrifice this country's love for me because it's wrong to go the other direction. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. When I was in the military, there were a lot of there were social advancements that happened within the ranks. And they were careful. They did a really good job. Jesus, it's been 30 years. They did a good job 30 years ago of explaining to us as enlisted men that when it comes to following orders, there is a careful way of going about it. You do not blindly follow orders if you yourself believe them to be wrong.
Right.
But you're going to have to be willing to take the slings and arrows.
Right, exactly.
You have to be careful because people with, a higher rank than you will make mistakes. And when everybody's going with the crowd, if you stand your ground, eventually the truth will out.
Right.
What was done in dark will be brought to light. And there were a lot of things like the tailhook scandal and everything else. It was all these ugly incidences that absolutely have to happen so that today's military is now a place where men and women are standing on more and more equal footing because of those things.
Right, I agree. And really what it comes down to and what you're describing in Cap and like real true to life Boy Scouts and Eagle Scouts, you're talking he was the personification of character.
Yeah.
Cap was character. Like that guy, no matter what, stood up for what was right. And like that always made the moral choice, always did the right thing. You know what I mean? And never felt bad about it. You know what I mean? Like he was always found a way to be positive about it all, and it's great, man. And I thought Chris Evans did a spectacular job of portraying him in the films too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that I've been trying to teach G, that's my son. There's 12 points of Scout law, and I always tell him a Scout is, and the first one is trustworthy. I said there's a reason they put that one first. Mm-hmm. If you're not that trustworthy person, the other 11 don't fucking matter.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's very true.
Honor isn't something that you just go and achieve like a medal.
Yeah.
It is something that's ongoing, and you've given it by other people. Other people decide whether you get that or not. That's not a decision up to you.
Say two things that they say that there's only two groups of people that ever say that never say I am. Is the United States Marine. He's never I was a Marine. He is a Marine for life. The other one's an Eagle Scout.
Really?
I am an Eagle Scout. I wasn't an Eagle. I am an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, right.
And that's one honor that they will take away from you.
Really?
And they've taken it away from and completely stricken them from the list. It's
wow.
Like you fuck up. It's like you may have earned it, but you have to keep earning it.
You have to keep it. Like, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool, man. I didn't know that. Little lesson into the Boy Scouts of America for y'all.
Yay.
While they're undergoing their struggles right now.
Yeah, they're having a rough time of it right now.
It's still a good program.
It's a great program. I think it's an amazing program.
Absolutely. Where would we be without the nation's finest growing up in that environment?
Right. Exactly. And I love the idea too that they're actually like the advances in letting girls participate because the Girl Scouts are great. I know your mom was pretty involved with the Girl Scouts.
I was Girl Scout, but you know what? Nowadays, Girl Scouts aren't nothing but a money racketeering.
Well, the thing is, what I love
Girl Scouts is not what it used to be.
What I love about them being okay with girls joining the Boy Scouts is the fact that girls need to know how to survive too. You know what I mean? They need to know these what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say pediments, but that's not it. These values in life are not strictly for. They probably help if I plug.
No, they don't have anything to do with gender.
It has nothing to do with gender. It's not strictly for men, and I think it's great that they open that up. Now I know we have discussed in the past that there's been some changes to some of the things that are historically been with the Scouts for a very long time.
Yeah.
What would that be?
So, at the camp that I go to, several things that have been brought. Some of the songs that they've been using have been around for the 20s. They were brought from camp to camp to camp because they're part of history.
Are they like Indian songs or like what?
No, these are just things that you sing around the campfire, things you sing in the dining hall every time you go in. they're changing the words in them to make them more inclusive. I'm like going, but we brought them from the 20s because they were tradition. You can't just change tradition. That's not the way that works.
You know, the way I would look at it, what I think would be smarter is keep those tradition songs, create new ones.
Absolutely.
Create new ones that are inclusive, but don't change the old ones, because that's a history of Scouts from the 20s.
I had no idea there were songs in Boy Scouts.
Yes.
So one of the most famous ones is Trail the Eagle. And we sing this after every meal during camp, and it's just to inspire you to keep going. Getting an eagle is not fucking easy, okay? And it's just it's just telling you keep going. And the line used to be "On brothers on until we're eagles all," and this song has been around since the 20s. It's been sang by every scout from the 20s. And now it says on scouts, on scouters, on.
See, I disagree with that. See, I completely disagree with them making that change, because when you say on brothers on is referring to a brotherhood.
It's a brotherhood.
Brotherhood does not denote gender. Right. Brotherhood and sisterhood are terms we use, but that camaraderie with people, it'd be like them changing fucking Eisenhower's speech from fucking before D-Day and saying, you know, what is it that we band of brothers, like it's saying we band of soldiers instead. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's brotherhood is about a camaraderie with each other, and your gender doesn't matter.
It was about all the scouts. I mean, it's on brothers on until we're eagles all.
Yeah,
it's like. I didn't say you girls couldn't be there too.
Yeah.
It's the brotherhood of scouting, which now includes girls.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with that.
Right.
A lot of people in my troop are not, but with the changes that are being made, it's like I don't see why girls can't learn these skills and learn these values.
Right.
And I mean, I've devoted 20 plus years of my life to this program. I obviously believe in it.
Right. And what is wrong with teaching girls those same values? You know, there's absolutely.
Well, the girls that want to.
Yeah, the girls.
And by the same token, like there's boys that wouldn't fit that program, and they shouldn't be forced to.
Right. Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you have an aptitude for this and a thirst for it, and obviously you have to.
Right.
You have to be tenacious to pursue these things because it costs you. Like you understood that song embodied the spirit of this is about people that don't give up.
Right.
You can't teach that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's either instilled in you, or you have it, or you don't. And to force kids to go into a program like that because that's what made you great is terrible. And excluding girls in it that would excel at it or have a hunger or a thirst for that sort of thing, that's wrong too.
Exactly.
So I'm glad we're advancing. I would have preferred maybe a third program that allows, because I will tell you. There is something about
like the Ventures, which is the third program that includes both.
Okay.
Oh,
and
really?
That's what I'm saying.
Been
like,
around since,
there should be a third one because I think some part of this comes at the cost of something that's important also for young boys to.
Hold on a second here.
I just blew his mind.
So you're telling me that a program, part of the whole scouting tradition, there's a program that exists that allows both boys and girls in it to learn these same sets of values and things called Ventures.
Yes.
So why the fuck do they need to let girls in Boy Scouts?
Yes.
If that already exists. Because that's like, sororities and fraternities exist on colleges. You know what I mean? They're separated. There are some that are co-ed, but most of the time they're separated. But they're co-ed ones. If there's already an option where both are allowed, then why do you have to let the girls into the Boy Scouts? That I don't agree with.
And the Venture Scouts, you can't start in Ventures until you're 15. And if I didn't know about Ventures when I was a kid after I earned my Eagle at 15, I'd have joined Ventures because Ventures is all high adventure.
Right.
It's all the shit that, you want to go whitewater rafting? That's where you go.
Right.
You want to hike Philmont, which is a grueling fucking hike. You're hiking the Grand Canyon.
Right.
You're carrying everything that you fucking take. It's like, but Venture Scouts, that's what they do.
Right. So I could see letting girls in at young ages, but then I don't know, that's a little weird to me. At that point, it starts to feel like you're letting them in for political correctness, and that bothers me because I don't think that should ever happen. Nothing should ever be based on PC. They should be welcoming girls into this program because they want to, but if there's already a program exists that girls can be a part of, then why does this tradition that's been going on for 100 years need to be changed?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
But what it comes at the cost of, and I know that both of you have experienced this too, and you know that this is valuable time spent is when you're a boy growing up, or even adult men, there is something comforting and rewarding about exclusively the company of men.
Yeah.
And it's nothing, I mean, it can be gay, I suppose, but I'm just talking about that time that you spend growing up where you're a kid. And for a boy like me, my God, I had 4 sisters raised by a single mother.
Right.
You know what I mean? Anytime, and it didn't happen very often, where I got to go out with, a group of just boys, or, I was just the men hanging out. Like, it's a completely different environment, and it's a valuable experience.
Oh, I agree.
That's worth rewarding boys with.
And that's what one of the sticking points about this is the fact that boys need boy time and girls need girl time.
Yeah.
And once you put boys and girls together, they stop acting like boys and girls and they start impressing the other people.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Well, I have to argue at this point, because you have someone like me who I associate more with guys than I do girls.
Right.
I have like 2 female friends.
Right, exactly.
That's it. All my other friends are guys. So to say that, well, I'm going to go off and do my guy thing and say, like, well, what about me?
Right, I understand that. But, honey, at the same time, though, like, how many times have you looked forward to having that girls' night out with Tiffany and Lori? Just the 3 of you. You know what I mean? Just hanging out, just you girls.
Yeah.
You like your girls' nights out, too. It's healthy.
No,
it
but
is.
see, what I'm referencing is when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, all my friends were guys. Like, I was a
Right.
cheerleader, and I don't get the wrong idea about me, guys. I was not a cheerleader. I was not that pretty sparkly person. I was told I had to join. My mom said I had to join something in school. They didn't have a dance team. The closest thing to a dance team was a cheerleader.
Okay.
So, even when I was younger, I associated more with guys than I did girls, because I've never been the glittery type. I've always been like run in the mud, beat somebody's ass.
Right.
That's been me. So yeah, when I was older, I found female friends that were close to me.
Right.
But growing up, I didn't have that.
Right, I understand that, but that, I understand where you're coming from completely on that, and it's not to say that you hanging out with boys is a problem. What we're saying is there is something healthy from a young. I was a young man. I can tell you there is something very healthy and rewarding about hanging out with just other young men. I don't know what it comes from. I don't know if it's something that's baked into our DNA, but there's a camaraderie that comes out of it. You know what I mean? Because people do start acting differently when the sexes mix. They do. Guys act differently around girls.
Funny story, and G's going to hate me for telling this one, but I think this illustrates the point. So we was at a scout camp, and I'm not going to name it because I'm not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a female troop there for the first time, and they were playing Eagle Eye, which is play in the dark, and you're trying to climb the hill and get past the person that's spotting you without being seen. So it's play in the dark.
Right.
So there were girls there, and our guys invited them. Hey, you want to play this? This is something we do, and we want to show you. Okay, trying to be inclusive. One of the girls said something about, and I'm catching all this story third hand while I'm bandaging up his eye because he got punched in the face. One of the girls asked, so which one of you's the cutest? And somebody said, well, it's not him. And a punch was thrown, and then a roundhouse was thrown, and G ended up with a black eye. And this all happened in the space. There were three or four adults down there.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was not one of them. I was at the cabin because I try and let G have his guy time without Dad standing over.
Getting a black eye is definitely guy time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to guy time, kid. Pow!
Yeah, one of his really, really, really good friends just hauled off and dropped him.
Right.
And would not. I mean, had there not been girls there,
Never would have happened.
never would have happened. Because I can call you a fucker all I want. Now, if I'm trying to impress that girl over there, you call me a shithead. Well, now we got a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's nothing to say that girls or women are bad in that respect. It's just that we as men are idiots and we will adjust our behavior if women are in the room. We are very simple creatures. And if a woman's in the room or a woman's around, we will adjust our behavior. If we're around with just a bunch of guys, it's farting and picking boogers and fucking who gives a shit, dude. You know what I mean? Like when a woman comes around, it's different. You know what I mean? You act differently. It's baked into our DNA. There's just nothing we can do. We're built to impress, man. We walk around with our plumes out, man, just like a bird.
We're all peacocks.
Exactly.
Sometimes we have the brain of one. Yeah. And in this instance, it went poorly. And they separated them quickly and drugged them up the hill, literally.
Right.
And they walk in and like, they bring the boys in. I really haven't even looked at G. I'm sitting there playing cards. It's like, oh, he's in trouble again. It happens a lot. I'm like, all right, I'm playing cards. He's like, you want to tell the story? And I look up and his eye is swelling shut. I'm like going, well, this looks like it'll be an interesting story. I put the hand of cards down and went, so what happened?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe a way to be inclusive here about what you're talking about is like, if you have a troop that has both girls and boys in it, you do things together, but then you can have weekends where it's like, what? These girls are going to go camping here, the boys are going to go camping here, and you still give them that time with just boys or just girls and still do things together. So there's a way you can make it all work,
Well, I'm going to put that myth to bed right now. There are no troops that are co-ed.
Okay.
So there can be troops that are you can have a girl troop and a boy troop that are sponsored by the same organization.
Oh.
But they have a different leadership, they have a different structure, and they are supposed to have different meeting facilities or meet separately at the same time.
Okay, I see. So they're not like you don't have girls in your troop.
No.
But there could be another troop of scouts that are girls.
Right.
Okay, got it.
So
well, that's fucking retarded. That does not solve my childhood problem.
No, it does not.
It could, because if you went to one of these things and joined it, you could end up with a bunch of other girls who like to play in the mud and fucking catch frogs.
Yeah.
And
which is exactly what's happening.
Exactly,
yes. But so there are no co-ed troops. That's because even Scout BSA recognizes that you need that separate time.
Right, yeah.
Which I'm very thankful that they did. But now when you at mixed camps, you can have, so both of your scout camps or both of your troops from that organization could be going to the same scout camp at the same time.
Right.
There are going to be girls there.
I see.
But for the most part, the campsites are single gender. Because nobody goes to scout camp and comes back pregnant. That's my rule.
It's a valid point, Bob.
Are the boys allowed to fuck each other?
No.
Because I don't like that knee-jerk reaction, which with a lot of people who oppose this are like, well, you put them boys and girls together and you know what's going to happen. Like, well, how do you know that the Boy Scouts aren't fucking each other? Like, if that's your logic, like, where do you think they come from?
No.
There's a ton of fucking gay scoutmasters.
And Bob is like 10 shades of red right now.
It's my rule that nobody's getting laid at scout camp.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Problem solved. All right, so Stormy, we went off on the tangent there for quite a bit.
Yeah.
But so
Sorry.
How was? No, it was great. It was a great conversation. How does Marvel influence your life? Pardon me.
Comics in general have been there since I can remember. I got my first comic book before I could remember. And it was actually a joke. Every year for Christmas until I was about... I started doing a cheer camp over Christmas break when I was a freshman in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So every year we would go up to Christmas to my grandmother's. Well, everybody was there. There was like, I had 5 aunts and uncles and like their wives and their kids and shit like that. Well, my brother, Uncle JP mixed up a present for us. And a comic was supposed to go to him.
Right.
And I don't even remember what it was for me, but he mixed them up. Well, I wasn't going to let it go. So that's how I got started. It was a mix up. And I just loved it. But like to what it means the most to me is a lot of people see comics as a toy.
Mm-hmm.
Comics is not always a toy. Me and my brother have always had a very close relationship. My brother has a learning disability, and along with that learning disability came dyslexia. So he had a lot of reading problems growing up, and so I would always read to him. I love to read. Have always loved to read since I was little, and I would read to a fucking frog if it would let me. So I noticed I was probably 10 because he's 5 years younger than me. He could not read a regular book, but he could read a comic, and he could understand a comic. And they finally caught on to it. And it's because of the pictures and the words. So when you read a comic, it has a picture and a little word description about what's going on. When you read a regular book, you don't get that. So he was able to teach himself, train himself how to read and put pictures to it. So to me, growing up, what comics mean the most to me is that taught my brother how to read. Right. So comics are also an educational tool when you think about it.
Oh my God, 100%.
Also gave you guys something to have in common as well. You know,
very
some
much so.
wonderful common ground. And that totally makes sense about the dyslexia thing, because my older brother, Terry, had dyslexia really bad. And, like, I know, like, the struggles he has with reading things. And, like, when you're reading a regular book or like a written article, there's just all those words jumbled together, and it's so hard for them. But you think about a comic, it's all so spacious. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's so much space between everything. It's got to be a lot easier to focus on a bunch of words in a space that big, and then a bunch more over here.
Well, and then something to illustrate what's happening versus the words will help you navigate that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's engaging multiple levels of the brain, so it helps to differentiate.
And those guys wrote those stories at not like a juvenile level.
Yeah.
They used my vocabulary took off as a kid because the way they wrote those comics were they're aimed at kids, but there was a very adult literacy at work, and I imagine that took you guys off in a way that nothing else would have.
Yeah.
I think all of us can say that comics. Well, I don't know about you, because I think you were born reading like the
right. He grabbed
Bob
the Silmarillion and just took off, and we were all like, I can't fucking do it.
Bob came out of the womb reading the Dead Sea Scrolls. You know, but you know, I know it sounds like, at least I'm pretty sure everybody
my
here,
script is a little rusty right now.
I'm pretty sure all of us here, though, like, it had a dramatic effect on my ability to read, and I think everybody else here can pretty much say the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
see, I always use comics as an escape. I use reading as an escape. So, I mean, it's the same thing.
Right.
100%.
But, I mean, think about what just D&D in general has done for our vocabularies, our math skills.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hugely. So, if you want your kids to read and be smart, get them playing D.
Get them playing Dungeons and Dragons and read comic books.
Exactly.
That's right.
The more you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Go, Joe. I did that at work, and they just looked at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like going, I hate you all.
Dude,
I hate you all.
I feel your pain, brother. All right. I am the oldest person in my office by like 15 years. So it's like I make jokes all the time that nobody gets. I make Kevin Smith references and Clerks jokes all the time, and they look at me like I have three heads, you know? But whatever, it is what it is.
Somebody at work said, the more you know. I said, and knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, right.
And I waited, and I'm like going, go, Joe.
Nobody gonna read. Give me a go, Joe.
Come on, don't leave me hanging here.
Right on. All right. Well, that was great, man. That was good to hear from everybody on that. So
another one on that is, damn it, Janet.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, right.
They don't get it either.
Yeah, I know, right?
Goddamn kids.
Yeah, no, that was great though, man. We covered a lot of really cool Marvel topics there, man. So happy birthday, Marvel, again. Happy birthday to you. Now let's move on to something else. What else you got for us, Curt?
Well, we talked about a little bit on the Lost podcast. I want to bring it back up. Along with comics, board games are a huge deal growing up. There were no video games in my house. That just didn't happen. Even when it took off later, that still wasn't a thing. But we had a closet full of board games that I still, to this day, love. Mm-hmm. And you guys are all enamored with Monopoly, but that never... I think I can count on one hand the number of Monopoly games that actually we completed. And I mean it. Like, it was the source of much, as I understand it, that game wasn't meant to be enjoyed. It was supposed to be an object lesson about capitalism.
Really?
I
don't know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have fun with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about sink or swim, asshole. Like, that literally is what capitalism is. And it doesn't work out for most people. Most people are going to fucking struggle because that game came out of the Depression era, which, after the stock market crash of 29, people began to understand very clearly that, hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't working out for everybody. Can we do something different to ensure that the people down here on the bottom aren't completely ass fucked? And that game was born out of that. But hey, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. Right. Shit, it's going strong.
I love that game, man.
I really wish I was good at money in real life as I am in Monopoly.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It's like if I was as
that
good
motherfucker hits free parking all the time, I'll bet.
Yeah, I know. I guarantee you, Mr. fucking sold his soul to the devil over there.
Just grabs that stack of money. Yeah.
Tens.
Diamond Bob over there with his fucking boardwalk and park place.
No, see, the other night, Bob came over.
I just pictured Bob with like a gold grill.
Right, a cravat with a jewel on it and shit.
Now, see, the other night, Bob came over, and we're still playing board games because I had no idea how to play this game Risk. I still played it. Next time I'll play it a little differently now that I know what the fuck I'm doing. But it was a lot of fucking fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Risk was a good time. Risk is always those strategy board games are always fun, man. I love those things, man. Like just because they're, I love regular traditional board games too. Like I love the Game of Life. I love Sorry. I was a big player of as a kid. Monopoly, that kind of stuff. I love the let's sit down and play for 30-minute board games. But I like Risk and that kind of stuff because it's like you can sit here. We were up till Stormy went to bed at like 11 o'clock and we were on year 3. You can only do 5 years in this game. Bob and I stopped at 1:30 in the morning when we hit year 5. You know what I mean? It was just me and him playing. You know what I mean? Because it's like you get to that point where it's like, okay, let me figure out all these moves. What am I going to do here? Okay, if I move that over there, move this over here, I can bring these ones here. Okay, that works that way. You know what I mean? It's just, I love the amount of the time and the amount that goes into it, man. It's fucking great, man. I love those things. I love them so much.
I know next time I'll never get away with turn 4 again.
No.
Turn 4, I went to the moon. And it's like going, oh, you want a big boost to the number of troops you get? Go to the moon.
Yeah, well, there was nothing I could do about it because I couldn't get enough men to defend my fucking positions because asshole kept taking Greenland from me.
That's the point of the game, right?
Yeah, whatever.
So what I'd like to see is I know that D&D, I love D&D. I would never I don't ever want that to go away. But I think if we mix it up sometimes from the D&D sessions to maybe we just play board games, and I am not saying that. Do not hit me, Twitterverse, for saying and putting words on my mouth. I love D&D. I love rolling dice. But our group is very fortunate enough that we get together every week and we play for like 8 hours. Yeah, we bullshit a lot, but we're here for 8 hours.
Right.
So, but we all love board games.
Right,
absolutely.
Too. A perfect example is like last weekend. I mean, we got a great podcast out of it, but like we could have said, like our DM, would you just, going through shit in life and just didn't have it in him to game that night, we could have easily busted out Risk and said, well, fuck it then, let's sit down and play Risk. You know what I mean? We could have done that or record an awesome
Well, I tell you what, you
that
guys are in the mood for board
killer.
games. You saw Ben perk up when you said board game. That motherfucker has dozens of board games, like dozens, shit you never heard of, shit you didn't even know existed. He's got a shit ton of them, and they're all fun and they're all fucked up.
Nice.
He's got so many I can't even fucking describe them all. He's got a lot of D&D ones that are really cool. I have one of those called Lords of Waterdeep that is fucking cool. That board game is a great, like, everybody's a DM. basically you're all DMs in this game, and you have to put together adventure groups to accomplish quests. And that's how you gain more points and more gold.
Right.
Is that you have to have a certain number, like you need 2 clerics and 4 fighters to complete this mission. You know what I mean? And there's all sorts of shit to fuck each other over and trip each other up because you're the lords of Waterdeep.
Yeah,
and
right.
all trying to get your shit accomplished. Like that is,
Right on.
that's just one game. And Ben's got, every time that it's funny, if we have a night where we're like, yeah, let's invite Ben and Jen over. We'll invite him over and he's like, let me bring some board games. So I'm like, yeah. Now, mind you, like if you're going over there for dinner, a board game is like
singular.
We're good, dude.
Yeah.
And he comes over with this like pizza pie stack 15 feet high. I didn't know how many you wanted to play. Like I don't know, dude. Like we can't play all these. We're locked in a room for 3 days. Like what do you think was gonna happen in here? Fuck. But yeah, he's got a ton. So all you gotta do is just barely whisper that, and he'll bring the shit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I agree with that. Like making our game nights out every once in a while. Fucking play a board
Absolutely.
game.
Settlers of Catan. That's a great one. Eventually, I promise Twitter that we will learn how to play Axis and Allies again. It's been about 30 years since we've all played it.
Right. For those of you, we didn't bring this up earlier. We sat down to play Axis and Allies the other night, and we opened up none of us have played. Well, Stormy has never played it. And Bob and I haven't played it in about 25, 30 years. And we sat down and we set it up, and we got the board out, and we got the pieces out, and we opened up the instruction manual, and then read the first few pages of the instruction manual and said, yeah, we're going to take some more time to study that and play it again later.
Yeah.
It's more, a little more.
It's a career.
It's slightly more complicated than fucking Risk, by like a gnat swing.
Yeah.
I can walk us through this one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I forgot how much, like, because there's so much more involved in Axis and Allies, because you have to do with like research and all that kind of stuff where you improve your units and do all of this. So there's just a fuck ton more to deal with in that game. And I was just like, okay, we ain't learning this one on the fly, dude. So
Yeah.
we busted out Risk, and it's what, 2180 or 2140 or
2210.
2210. Risk
Yeah.
2210. I'm wrong on all fronts there.
You can nuke. You can send nukes down from the moon to just bomb the shit out of people.
Well, dude, I had no choice but to let you take the moon because I didn't have enough men to hold anything.
I think he's still angry at me for this.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, whatever, dude. I'll get you next round, next time, fucker.
I'm sitting right here.
All right, cool, man. Right on.
So tell us about this fighter, 5th edition fighter.
Yeah, no, it's just not something. I just wanted to bring it up and discuss it as a group once. You know what I mean? Like what everybody's thoughts were on it, because I haven't played a 5th edition fighter yet. The only experience I've seen with it is what Tim played.
Oh, I know. Like that is the shame of like Tim took over as DM.
Yeah.
And I love the notion of that character.
So did I. I thought it was great.
Gives you what Tim did with that character isn't so unusual. The fighter, when it comes to combat, is the most versatile character in 5th edition D&D.
Right.
I mean, you can boil it down to like, well, okay, is it strength based or dex based? And yeah, that's kind of what you do. But what he did with that character and taking shield proficiencies was powerful.
Yeah.
Like it was like a Captain America style D&D character.
Well, it
I
was.
loved his battlefield control.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like for obviously listeners out there don't know much about Tiberius, but Tim's character Tiberius, he kind of built this fighter character that specialized in shielding and protecting. So he got all these he started taking all these really cool feats and maneuvers to where like he could block and then like give somebody an attack as a result. He could do a maneuver and basically like pass an attack off to me, who was DPS in the group. And I thought that was really unique, man. That was a really interesting way to play a fighter. Because I think fighter gets a bad rap. I think people think, okay, yeah, you're the guy with the sword that just runs in and hits shit. Which you can be if you want to be. You know what I mean?
We really ought to think about giving his shield to Ben.
Yeah, because I don't use it. Brenda
the
doesn't use
phalanx
it.
shield. Yeah, that's a good idea.
That just dawned on me. I'm like going, wait a minute. We've got a guy that uses a sword and shield. We just gave him a kick-ass sword. We give him that shield.
Yeah.
Woo!
that-
Paladin!
Exactly.
Wait a minute. We may have a
Now,
plan here.
Has anybody here played a 5th edition fighter?
No,
No.
but I have gone over it, man. Like
Okay.
I totally, and part of the appeal is my ability to roll is really shitty. So the more chances that I have to roll, like, you know, I think about that. Most of the time, Hugo has very little ability to get advantage on my attack. So here comes my big shot. It's one spell and one roll. And, oh, man, that doesn't cut it. Like, give me another chance.
Right.
But with fighter, with a selection of feats, not many. You take action, or as an action surge is a feature.
Yeah.
So already you get that. And then with the careful selection of the feats, by 5th level, you can have 4 attacks in 1 round.
See, that's insane.
That gives me such a chance to, like, one of these is going to land. Like,
right.
It's gotta happen.
Or it's going to be 4 fumbles. fuck.
Just shooting myself in each foot twice with a fucking crossbow.
Right. Just cut off your fingers, your ear, my toe. Like,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's something I might actually play in one of our upcoming things. I know we're going to do a Pathfinder 2nd edition game or an Eberron game here soon. But I might think about a fighter, man. Like, I wouldn't mind just seeing, because D&D 5th edition allows you to get kind of, I mean, yeah, we discussed many times that the skill leveling, that kind of stuff leaves a little bit desired in the customization department, but it feels to me like fighter is the most customizable class.
Absolutely,
you
dude.
know?
And if you put together something like I know what you do. What you do is look for that other thing.
Yeah.
And I can only dream up like what a Trent Eldritch Knight would be.
Right, exactly.
Like, that would be a character. As a DM, I don't think I could plan for it. I would so enjoy watching you. You know what I mean? Try to navigate the challenges set in front of you.
Yeah.
No, I know this is kind of off topic, but I want to kind of ask it. Has anybody here read or heard anything about the new game? It's called Black Void or...
I've seen a couple of advertisements for that on Facebook.
It's been all over Twitter, and from what I've read, it sounds pretty cool. So what made this pop in my head was talking about, starting another campaign. It looks pretty cool. I want to pick up the book. I mean, as soon as I pick up the book, I'll talk about it more, because it's only been out a short time, and it's talk everywhere.
Honey, newsflash. You never have to ask me about buying a role-playing game book.
I never asked for permission. I said when I get it.
I'm just saying,
Not a hard sell.
You never have to hard sell me on that one, dude. I like collecting that shit, so I don't care if we can have 5 bookcases filled with role-playing game books.
But I never asked. I was saying, well, we'll talk about it more when I get it. But it is. I just wanted y'all's opinion on if y'all have heard anything, because it's the talk on Twitter right now.
Yeah, no,
It's the new game
I've
talk.
seen it pop up in a couple of places, and like, I definitely am interested to see what it's all about. Now, do we know, is it set in 5th edition, or is it its own role playing game? Is it a module for 5th edition?
It's
or
its own game.
It's its own system.
Let
then?
me double check.
So it's that's kind of cool, man. Like, I'm always down for checking that kind of shit out. I love that. I love weird off.
It's very dark though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love weird systems too, man. I love, like, there's one. I go to Barnes & Noble every day on lunch, and I know I've said that probably a dozen times on this podcast, but there's one there called like Zweihander. And it's like a fucking some role playing game I've never heard of before, and it's like kind of very much based in like Norse mythology and whatnot, and based in like that Northern Europe type thing. It looks like. One I'm really excited to check out is actually a sci-fi one. They have the Expanse role playing game.
Oh wow!
Which me and Stormy are just real fresh into that TV show, which is pretty cool. But I'm really interested in seeing it as a role playing game. I was flipping through it, and it looked really cool, because the story for me is true science fiction, because it's really the life set in the future in space. You know what I mean? And I'm interested to see what a role playing game would be like with that. What are the details?
So this is what the Black Void is. It doesn't say whether it's not D&D. It's something of its own. It started out as a Kickstarter campaign. It's a dark fantasy tabletop role-playing game about the fall and resurgence of humanity. Black Void is the dark fantasy tabletop role-playing game revolving around the fall and subsequent resurgence of humanity after a cataclysmic
Gesundheit.
events that have torn them from Earth. But it's supposed to be really dark, and it looks, everything I've read, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, definitely we should pick that up, man. That sounds cool as shit, man. That sounds awesome, actually.
Now that Stormy went way off subject, I'm so sorry.
Oh no, that's
Let's
okay.
talk about them fighters.
No, it's okay. No, I just want to get everybody's. All I was looking for is everybody's opinion on the fighter. That's all I was just interested in. Like, what is a fighter? What makes a good fighter? You know what I mean? I think it's hard to nail down in 5th edition, because you can do so much with
points.
it.
You can do so. It's
That's
whatever
what
you
makes a
want
good
it to be.
fighter, hit points.
Yeah.
Yeah, but couldn't you make a straight fucking DPS fighter? You could make a DPS fighter that doesn't have that many hit
points. It would
points.
crush anybody else.
A fuck ton of damage.
But that's just it. Like if you look up the article on First Table Gaming, you'll see that Curt placed that character dead last, and it's not because they wouldn't be fun to play technically, because you're just fucking the shit when it comes to swords or bows or whatever it is you want. Shields, like Tim picked up the shield and it made for an amazing character. It's that other than combat, there's no other features.
Right.
There's nothing. You'd basically have to create a character that you were totally okay with nothing but combat coming. And there's whole stretches of the game where there ain't no combat and there's not a whole lot for you to do.
Really?
In that way, you know?
Well, I mean, there's not much for Dorn to do. I mean, Dorn basically.
Well, I said, the Ranger is a character that depends on your DM. You have things like favored enemy and terrain and everything else like that. That greatly depends on what the DM throws your way.
Right.
Because otherwise, you're a super sleuth or you're hunting vampires or you're the woodsman and you're doing all that shit. But if that doesn't take place in the DM's game, then you're just standing there, dick in your hand. That character sucks. So, but even he has.
Dorn disagrees.
And please don't put your dick in your hand.
Yeah, I don't intend to. I don't intend to.
You know, the fighter doesn't have even those features.
Right.
Really. I mean, you have access to a couple of skills, and based on your background, you might.
Do we know what the archetypes are for a fighter? I was just curious.
Well, I said Eldritch Knight was the first one that came back. That it came to mind, and then there's like
I thought they had like a gladiator,
combat master,
or combat master,
yeah, something like that. But it's all it all has to do with either melee or ranged weapons, weaponries. Eldritch Knight is the most fascinating one for me because it incorporates spells,
right?
That you wouldn't have to.
You love spells.
I do.
You are such a spell guy, man. You fucking love
because
spells.
it separates it from all other games.
Right.
Like it's. I think that's my favorite DC villain is Mr. Mxyzptlk.
Right.
Because that's the great thing about those characters is you have to be forward thinking about that. I mean, you have a couple of spells that your mainstays. But there's a whole bunch of them that you add to your itinerary, and there's a bunch that Hugo gets out of the Warlock spell list, and because he's a Fey Pact one, I have yet to use it. I'm waiting for that opportunity, and when that opportunity comes, I really enjoy what happens.
All right, so your archetypes for fighter are champion, battle master, and Eldritch Knight.
Okay,
that's out of the player's handbook.
Champion, battle master, and Eldritch Knight. I think there's a couple more inside of like Xanthar's and and Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, which I have both over there. So.
We just happen to have all the books at our fingertips.
Exactly, I know.
Please.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing, you know. Like I'm all about that shit, man. I want our D&D collection to get larger and larger and larger. Our role playing game collection.
Now, could you, speaking of fighters, I'm not going to speak too much on it because I don't have that much knowledge about fighters. When you would say a fighter, who would you compare him to, like superhero wise? You know me, everything has.
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Everything.
Nope. Because the one we just saw tonight, Captain America, right out the gate. You could build a Captain America totally from the ground up. And also Avengers wise, Hawkeye's a fighter. Hawkeye is a fighter.
You don't think? Yeah, I guess Cap is straight up a fighter.
Cap's straight up fighter. So is Hawkeye. You could build both those characters. From Game of Thrones, Hound.
Yeah, Hound.
You could build the Hound. You'd be
Jon Snow,
indomitable with the sword.
Yeah,
nobody could come up against you.
Jon Snow would be more of a ranger.
You think so?
I think so. But in terms, I mean, you couldn't build him.
Right, he looked up to his uncle Benjen, who was a ranger, and that's all he ever really wanted to do.
Right,
Yeah.
But Thor is a straight fighter.
Yeah.
Thor's a straight fighter.
Yeah, I mean, he can
Thor is
command
a lot of things.
Well, I go as far as say he's a I would go as far as to say he's a barbarian. Thor is a barbarian.
Thor I see kind of as a barbarian, because he does get
of
that
legend
ragey.
as well. His temper is legendary. Yeah.
All right, I will totally agree with that one.
Right.
But the extra classes you get out of Xanthar's Guide is Samurai, which again seems like a clash in D&D for me.
I know.
I think that belongs.
You hate that Eastern.
No, I don't hate it. I just think it belongs in and of itself. I think if you had like 3rd edition had that where I think it is a section of Faerun too.
Karator.
where that all exists, and you can have those characters venture out of there.
God,
But in those settings, I think that makes more sense to me. But you can also play Cavalier, and my favorite, I think, is really cool, Arcane Archer, where you can imbue your arrows with spells.
Yeah,
that is some cool, groovy shit right
Now,
there.
is that what you originally started to do with Dorn?
What I was originally going to do whenever I created Dorn was I was originally going to do an Arcane Archer because I was really interested in imbuing my arrows with spells. But then whenever I started looking at the Gloomstalker Ranger, and because of the fact that I was starting us in Ravnica, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go with this instead because I expected a lot more city in our campaigns. But then Tim kind of took over, and we've been in the wilderness a lot. So,
So the one I want to play, probably as much as any, is I want to try a 5th edition monk. See,
Hell yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to build that character as well. Like, what were you thinking? Or you were just idea?
Just the idea of it, but so you have to pick a tradition. Okay.
Yeah, because I love the idea of those shadow monks.
Right, yeah, I saw that.
And the fact for the first time, because before, Monk was one of those characters where if you played it, you couldn't take the standard array.
Yeah.
Or roll dice like I do, because you really need more than 3 of your stats to be of substance.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you either fudge your rolls and have a decent monk, or it's shit. But in 5th, you can make unarmed attacks dex based.
Right.
And boy, that's a game changer there.
Yeah.
Because now your stat for attacks and your armor are the same thing, plus a bunch of skills that you're going to use as a monk are all dex based. So that makes it more playable race for me. Anyway.
Right.
See, with a quick read here, I just read through the Way of Shadow, the Way of the Open Hand, but the Way of the 4 Elements seems like
4 Elements looked pretty cool to me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty bad. Airbender. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think of in my head is the last Airbender whenever I think about a monk of the 4 elements. Did Goliath
Did you
bite
get bit?
I got it. Yeah.
Colossus 1, Bob nothing.
It's about time. Motherfucker, I get bit every goddamn podcast.
You took way too much pleasure in that.
Yeah, and another character class I'm really interested in 5th edition, and we'll just talk about this shortly. I really want to try a druid.
Ooh.
See, I want to do a barbarian druid.
A doodad.
Oh, Jesus.
A barbarian druid. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
They haven't heard that story yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn to a bear and flake out.
I'd be playing Pocahontas.
Yeah.
Well, Pocahontas on steroids.
Exactly. Which story yet?
Well, that's where the Doodad was part of the Lost podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about Bob's R.A. Salvatore thing.
Yeah. Well, let's get into some R.A. Salvatore.
Okay.
Bob just had to look through his
Well,
memory
that's
rounds.
it today for the Lunatic Parade Podcast.
Bob just had a brain fart. It's all right. So I try and introduce everybody to a new author. Yeah. And R.A. Salvatore's got... I'm being handed notes. Hold, please.
Bob forgot everything.
Well, it is a lot to take on.
He's also been up since about 3 o'clock this morning. So.
Bob is a very busy man. When he is not doing his regular job, he is either scouting, here working on a game, here podcasting,
or doing
here gaming,
horse things.
or doing horse things.
Not things with horses.
Not things with horses.
Does
horse is a horse.
Does anybody know where that comes from? The horse things thing. Have you ever seen Hudson Hawk with Bruce Willis?
Yeah,
Yes.
love that movie.
It's one of my favorite lines in that is when his Danny Aiello, I think is who played his friend.
Yeah.
And he looks at him and he's like, the something d'equestrian. Horse things. and that is like, that's just always stuck. Every time you talk about horse shows, I'm like, horse
Yeah, I
things.
quote that movie all the time. I love the villain looks at Bruce Springsteen, Bruce Willis, and he goes, and he does it with a smile on his face. He goes, I will torture you so slowly, you'll think it's a career.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, if Da Vinci were here, we'd both be naked eating sushi in the back of my limo.
Yeah, that movie is fucking great.
fucking
Did
great.
you know the guy that plays the thug in it, Butterfinger?
Yeah.
He comes in with the fucking crossbow bow. Boss, who's bleeding.
Yeah.
That's the guy that plays Leatherface in those new Leatherface movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew him from, he was big in like the sports movies in the 90s, like The Program.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I said, he played the really big
he's a
dude. He was on
giant fucking
steroids.
scary
Yeah,
dude,
huge guy, yeah.
All right, so R.A. Salvatore.
Are you up to speed now, Bob?
I'm back.
Okay.
So his most popular series, obviously, is his Forgotten Realms series, where he's got two separate main characters in that. You've got the Dread series, which we've talked about numerous times, which is where you meet Curt's favorite character, Draxel. But Homeland has 3 books in it, and that's literally him going back in time and telling the story of
How the fuck he got out of Men's Barons?
how he got out of hell, effectively. Then you've got the Icewind Dale trilogy, which is where he first meets Bruenor, Katie Bree, and Wolfgar. Which, if you want to meet a barbarian, a true ice barbarian, read Wolfgar.
Okay,
that
cool.
motherfucker. When he's wielding Aegis Fang. Holy shit!
And I'm telling you,
He throws his hammer like Thor. All right.
Nice.
you will
That's
so
awesome.
appreciate that after a fashion. There's one book that really concerns Wolfgar, The Adventures of Wolfgar, Spine of the World.
Yes.
And it's many books up into the series. It's probably the 6th or 7th book, isn't it?
Yeah.
It might even be later. But R.A. Salvatore, when he writes combat, because Drizzt is a dual scimitar-wielding elf, and he spares no detail when it comes to these battles about how this guy utilizes those weapons to dice his opponents to pieces, and it's amazing. However, it does get a bit wordy after a fashion. So you're so relieved when Spine of the World comes out and it's just Wolfgar, because Wolfgar, man, he worships Tempos, who is the god of like chaos?
War.
Of war. Yeah. Wolfgar basically screams Tempos and throws his hammer, and whatever's in its path gets blasted.
That's
Battle
that's
over.
End of the
I
fight.
fucking love it. And I was like, there's a whole book about it. Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
He's got 27 books in the Drizzt series.
Damn.
And they're all good,
Wow.
man. I have yet to read one where I was like, I really like
That's
that one so much.
prolific, dude.
It is.
Then he's got 5 in the Cleric Quartet, which has got Catterley, who is your bookworm monk. I mean, wielding a yo-yo.
I feel so fucking embarrassed because
A
I read that
yo-yo.
book. I'm like halfway through that book, and I was like, Bob's like, are you enjoying it? And I was like, all right, well, I have a question. And I feel embarrassed even asking you because I feel stupid. Because they don't say yo-yo.
Yo-yo.
He describes it as
a
two
spindle
half
disc.
spheres, spindle disc on like, and I'm
On a
and
rope.
talking about the way that it zips around, and I was like,
In your head, you're going,
I don't
"That's a-
get it.
you-
1, fuck this weapon. 2, I don't understand it.
In your
Bob
head,
just
you're
looks at
going-
me and goes, it's a yo-yo. I've never felt, all of a sudden a dunce cap appeared on my head. I was like, oh, fuck this.
Right.
Damn it.
But that's what a yo-yo was invented for. It was initially a weapon.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that was its initial purpose, was weapon.
Wow.
Who invented it?
Beats the fuck out of me.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
But and in later books, in the later Drizzt books, he crosses over with Catterley. And this character literally gives his entire life force to build this massive fucking monastery.
The Cathedral Soaring, I think it's called. Yeah.
For his wife, who's a monk.
Okay.
That doesn't make sense.
Danica. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he builds this place for her, and he gives he gives everything to it, and eventually, it gives it back. It's like he's like, no, you succeeded. Here's your life back.
Wow.
But then he's got the Demon War saga, which have you read that one, Curt?
No, and it's his own world. Like he world
he created it
the
from
Drizzt.
the
The world is
Forgotten
set in
Realms.
Forgotten
Yeah.
Realms, but yeah, this demon, that's his own creation.
The first one's the Demon Awakens, and I'm trying. Okay, I'm apparently way the fuck behind because this says there's 7 more books in that series. I'm like going, I've got some reading to do.
I'm just reminded of that old Saturday Night Live skit with Stephen King, where they show Stephen King, and he's got one hand on each. There's two typewriters, and he's just writing like a motherfucker's papers just flying out of it. Like,
exactly.
Their output is insane that they're able to create this stuff.
Oh, I know, right? Like, I've been wanting to write a book for a very long time, and I've sat down and started multiple times, and I can get up to about 100 pages or so, and then I'm like, I just lose it. Like, I just lose the ability to continue for some reason. I lose the story.
Well, here's what it is. Like, there is a great book, and if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, he recommends a book called The War of Art. And what people who create, and the guy that wrote it was somebody who, he was a writer, but until he's succeeded at doing what we haven't done yet, which is make it your primary focus.
Right.
For, you know, we've all had shit we got to do, man. And then to create, write that book, or do that thing, you're already spent, man.
Yeah.
You're fucking worn down to a nub, especially you who sits in front of a computer all day. And then you tell me you're going to fucking sit down and do your best work.
Yeah.
No. You know, you have to make it a priority, and you have to do it every day. Mm-hmm. And two, it's got to be your primary focus. And so until you're able to do that, you probably won't bust through that wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the doodad.
The doodad, yeah.
Pikel and Ivan Boulder Shoulder, two dwarven brothers, and he is a dwarven underground druid. But he can't, he'll speak to animals. He'll cast his shillelagh, which he can't fucking pronounce either. But he can't pronounce druid. He calls himself a doodad.
A doodad.
Well,
what are you, a doodad?
That's fantastic.
I didn't know if Ivan came up with that or Pickle did.
I thought Pickle did. What are you? Because Pickle didn't believe he was a druid. I mean, he follows Maliki, who's the same goddess that Dritz follows.
Yeah.
Goddess of the forest. But Ivan, I truly do not ever believe that he was like. Yeah, he says he's a druid. Yeah, it's like
he's like, you darn doodad. He's always cussing his brother because he's kind of embarrassed by him.
Right.
At the same time, he loves him more than anything.
It's like, this is my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl kind of situation.
Oh, dude, you would love Ivan too.
Right.
Ivan's got a slick crossbow. Is it a hand crossbow or just a light crossbow?
It's just a light crossbow.
And the bolts have explosive heads.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell
Bam.
Yeah.
But tell the story about him going into the fighting the giants.
Oh yeah, they were fucked. Like, they were down in the lowlands where the entrance to Mithril Hall is, and they were about to get lambasted because high on this cliff overlooking the edge of that, a huge army was amassed of orcs, frost giants. Like, they held the high ground, and they were about to start mowing them down. And Pickle's up to something, and Ivan's like, "Dear doodad, where's he going now? You're leaving us, coward!" You know what I mean? Like, he just took off on us. No, they had a slick plan, and he enlisted the help of a couple of gnomes who giggled their ass off when they figured out what it is he was going to do. Pickle had discovered a gas pocket underneath that ledge, and they lit that fucking thing off and blew everything.
Oh, no shit, man.
Just one example of why you have to read these books.
I gotta check these out, man. I think we have to give up television, honey.
Well, I've started. I have.
Or sleeping.
I don't want to say I'm forcing myself to read, because that's not the way I mean it. I have forced myself to give myself an hour a day to read, and I am about 150 pages into that Harley Quinn book, and I absolutely fucking love it. So, it's not really a punishment for me, but yes, I am reading it.
Yeah, I just gotta find a way to do that.
You're not forcing yourself to. You're making it a priority.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah, for anybody out there, I picked her up the novelized version of Mad Love, which is, I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but like, they have started taking some of these classic, iconic, like Batman and DC stories. I don't know if they're doing them for Marvel and turning them in. They're novelizing them. So like, it's
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story. I can't wait to finish it and talk about
Well,
it.
yeah, the whole thing is the story. It's a story of the Joker and Harley and how Harley became Harley.
It goes all the way back to Harley when she was 7.
Right. It's a story of Harley Quinn and how she falls in love with Joe. You know the Mad Love storyline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they novelized those into actual novels. So like, I bought her a copy copy of that before we flew to Florida the first time for her to read. And it's like, so instead of it being a regular graphic novel, it's just like a normal novel, but it's all.
I'd be curious to read the novelization.
Yeah.
What kind of a
treatment I noticed they had that one, and they have Court of Owls are the two that I saw there for the Batman story. So, you know, I think
as
it's
soon
an
as
interesting
I'm
concept.
done, Kurt, you can borrow it.
Well, I've
I would
also
just have to add that to the stack of books. It's impossible for me to get to, but
I know,
thank you.
right?
Yeah.
Well, when you're not reading, you also have to get through Vampire Diaries now.
Yeah.
And that's a feat in itself. There's a lot.
There's eight seasons. 8 seasons of that show.
Well, now I'm reading and I'm trying to plow through Luke Cage season 2, which I really like, man.
Yeah, I like Luke. I love Luke Cage season 2, man. It was great. It was great. Definitely. So, why don't you bring up your last topic, which was, I don't remember.
It was Age of Magic.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Now I got you to start playing this game briefly.
I played it for about 8 minutes. But I mean, it's not.
8 minutes.
I played it. I played it a couple of times. It's I'm not a big mobile gamer. It's a cool game though. I will admit it was fun. I just don't play a lot of games on my phone.
Now this game is about to mark its 1 year in being released, and it has over 1 million downloads for 1 year.
Yeah, that's impressive. I can tell you as a software developer,
now
1 million downloads in a year is
I've
an impressive
actually
benchmark.
Before about a week ago, our friend Tim asked me to try out this new game. Unfortunately, it's $10 for the game, and I will buy a game, but I wasn't going to pay $10 for a game that I didn't know if I was going to play it for 1 minute and put it away. So I found this new game, and it's called Darkness Rises. And when I wrote this was for last week, I had not played this game yet. And I compared Age of Magic to Mortal Kombat.
Right.
It is, but it's what I'm talking about is the arena setup.
Yeah.
The one thing that I do like, I mean, I love Age of Magic. It's a lot of fun for me. It's one of those no-brainer games where I don't have to think. It's just something I can sit down and play. It has a dark campaign. It has a light campaign. So I like it to where it has 2 continuous stories. And what I like about it, somebody, one of the bloggers online referred to it as hitting a paywall. It's not a paywall. In order to get your characters up to where you need to be, you get equipment. And how you get certain boards have that equipment. So you may need, I know one of them is a spell book, a level 2 spell book. I'm probably level 33 now, and there's only 3 boards that have that spell book in it. And every time you play it, you don't always get that spell book. Right. So you may have to play it a couple times. And I think that's what that blogger meant as a paywall.
Are you talking about Age of Magic or Darkness Rising?
Age of Magic.
Okay.
And I think that's what they meant by hitting a paywall, because I've been playing it for 2 weeks. I haven't ran out of energy any of the times, including the day that I spent almost all day playing it. And I haven't hit a paywall. Now, if you're one of those players who wants to buy the item instead of going back and earning it, then you're just impatient and don't.
Right, that's a patience issue. That's not a game issue, because it's just like, those there are games like that. Like when I play fucking Hearthstone. I've spent money on that game because I didn't have the patience to sit there and grind it out. But you can easily sit there and grind it out. And
but it's a total grind game.
Yeah.
You can play it as much as you want, as little as you want.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that draws me the most toward it is a game where you can either play a dark campaign, where you're playing with a demon, a dark sorcerer, a kobold, and I forget what the other thing is that I play with on my dark campaign. So if I feel in the mood to play a dark campaign, I will run through the dark campaign boards. If I feel like a light campaign, I'll run through the light campaign where I have a barbarian, like the traditional stuff. I love this game, dude. The graphics, There's several things you can do throughout the game, so you're not just stuck running a campaign. There's different quests you can do. And I like it. I would give this game, I wouldn't necessarily give this game a 10. I would give it a 9, which is still high in my standards because it's hard.
Which is perfect because this is episode 9.
But I mean, as far as like, it's hard to get a 10 for me when it becomes as a mobile game because...
Dude, it's hard to call anything perfect. You know what I mean? There's been very few games I've reviewed in my time.
Now, this new game, Darkness Rises, I would give that a 10. No questions asked. Because for me, I'm a loyal gamer. So if I find a game that I like, I'll keep testing a new game once a week. But for me to keep coming back and playing that game after I'm playing a new game is really hard. To keep my attention for that long is very hard. Now, I've found games like that, like War Dragons. I was playing that religiously for almost a year.
Yeah.
There are games out there that I do get addicted to, but it's hard to do that. And there's like, I will continue to play Age of Magic, but I found a new game that's my crack.
Right, exactly.
This is the good crack.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I played it for a little while too, man. I mean, I played it longer than 8 minutes, but I went through and played it for a little bit. It's an interesting game. It's cool. It's turn based. I like the turn based style of it. It's simple. It's pretty easy to get through, which I like. You know, it was definitely not bad. It didn't have any of the suck that was in War Dragons. It made me hate War Dragons, so that made me happy. You know, but yeah, cool, man. We'll have to check it out, man.
I've got surprising news on my front. So when I cracked my phone this time, I never reinstalled Final Fantasy 15. I just quit.
Right on.
Yay, Bob!
Good for Bob.
I was a level 150.
Yeah, but dude,
Holy
it was
shit.
with multiple trillions in troops.
right.
I would like to log in and see if anybody's actually attacked me because
Right.
looking the battle logs on that would be fucking hilarious. But
Right.
I just don't give a shit.
Right. It's good to know, dude, because like you just come over and sit here and just go click. You're just sitting here tapping and doing shit with that game, man, because you had so much shit to deal with.
Oh, I'm sure Bob's found a new game right now.
I'm sure by now.
Actually, I'm playing a mind-numbing little fucker called Merge Dragons.
Nice.
There's nothing to it. It's just like you're just merging shit. It's like my little
I
dragon.
thought you said merch dragons. He's like little dragons with lemonade stands and shit.
Ferengi, you know, like.
I need 4 lemons.
But yeah, you know what? Before we go today, I would like to bring up. I don't know if anybody else here has watched it, but has anybody watched the new season of 13 Reasons Why? Has anybody watched that show at all?
Huh.
Wow. Okay. So, if you haven't watched 13 Reasons Why, Curt, I definitely think you would dig it considerably.
Okay.
It
will fuck with the first season will fuck with you. Like it turned me off. It fucked with me so bad it turned me off to the show.
So like you have to go into this with a mindset, and they actually have a disclaimer that plays before the show telling you that, you know, if you're having like some dark thoughts, you're having some hard times, you know, it may not be a good idea to watch the show by yourself. It's a pretty intense show. I mean,
Sounds like it.
It really is. It really is. It comes from a book that was written by a man named Jay Asher, and it's about suicide. And the whole first season deals with suicide. I mean, they don't hide it, so I'm not giving anything away.
Right.
But the whole first season deals with suicide and this girl who takes her life and like the effect. And essentially, her suicide note she leaves is 13 recorded cassette tapes, each one directed at somebody in her life that could have helped her or had an effect on the reason why she chose to do what she did. As you go through it, it's very teen. You're like, okay, this is cool. By the time you get to about tape 5, you're like, okay, wait a minute, what's happening here? By the time you get to the end of that fucking show, dude, I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, I mean, oh my God, like it's very powerful. It's very, 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 very intense. What really blew me away with it though is, and this is something we talked about the other night after we finished season 3, was it's a beautiful show about teenagers just trying to get through this world. And it's like when you watch this, yes, everything is a bit exaggerated, but a lot of it's not. And it's like you're watching this and going, this is the world we left for our kids to to get through today, man.
Yeah,
You know, like the shit these kids deal with in school. Sexual assault, fucking drug addiction, fucking just insanity, dude. Like insanity. And it's
Absolutely.
like, you know that this is a reality for these people. Like, you know, the simple thing of a picture of somebody and how it just fucks this girl up over the whole first season, man. Like a picture that goes on social media and then gets sent here and here and here and like
100%.
all this weird shit, dude. It's a very riveting show.
Yeah,
and
back in our world, they like fucking over the weekend, Susie got fingered under the grandstand at the fucking football game.
Right.
And then word got around by Monday she's a slut.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole thing was like, but it all blew over and disappeared. There wasn't like a permanent record of it. And or like, you know, they sexted each other and they fucking locally, there was a big deal where these kids had sexted each other and the principal made an example of them. So then they're like a fucking charged with like, what's the child pornography thing? Like, I forget what the official charge is, but they were like formally charged with that. Something like that. But like
passing child pornography.
Whatever the fucking thing is. Now I want to make a public example.
Even if you're sending a picture of yourself, if you're underage, that is soliciting. No, it's not soliciting child.
I forget the official charge. I should have looked this up. I didn't think we'd be talking about this. But yeah, it's damage is being done on a permanent level. And at the same time, they're being castigated by an older generation that calls them fucking pussies.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard as shit.
Well, this show deals a lot with rape culture in school right now. You know, and that when I say rape culture, it's the way that they classify it, but it very much is
very much
that you know that sports heavy. They can get away with anything, you know what I mean? Because really, when you look at high schools and colleges today, they are one of two things. It's either a place where they're going to teach you, especially high school, it's a place where you're either going to learn how to pass the state exam, or it's a fucking goddamn professional sports farm.
Yep.
You know, that's all it is. Or in high school case, it's a college sports farm. You know what I mean? Those are the only two things they do in high school anymore. And like, but they talk a lot about how these kids, this kind of this sexism, sex as a conquest culture is promoted through like these heavy, intense male sports. And a lot of the show starts off focused on that. Now it broaches many, many more things over the 3 seasons that it is. And what I was really impressed with was by the 3rd season, they took one character, and that's Tyler, and I won't go into what happens with Tyler because it's a very intense storyline with this kid. But they go, and he is the one, you know, they talk a lot in here about how, you know, these things are going to happen. Tragedies are going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things wrong. Friends are going to make bad choices and that kind of stuff. You know, you're not always going to be successful, but they promote a lot about being there for your fellow student, you know, doing something just like coming up and talking to them and asking them if they're okay.
Now, is this a show that kids are able to watch, or is it too adult for kids?
I would not let a child
I would let somebody 16 and older.
So this is affording older generations to watch what these kids are going through to make them more empathetic to the struggles of a kid going through teenage years now.
Very much so. And it also points out a lot about how the simple little things you can do that can help, that could be the difference between somebody making a terrible decision to take their own life and not. You know, like that's what each one of those tapes that she sends are about. You know what? She's pointing the fingers at them, going, you know what? All you had to do here was do this, and I wouldn't have landed here. But now, before you get that look in your face like she's blaming it on everybody else, the 12th tape, I think it's the 11th or the 12th tape, is to herself. And like, I could have reached out and asked for help. I could have done this and didn't. You know what I mean? So they do a really great job of rounding that out. And she wasn't being an asshole about it. Like, you're at fault for this. It was more like,
it's just like I'm telling.
It was just more like all you had to do. You know, this was happening right in front of you. How come you didn't help?
So she was basically telling her story.
The whole show is about telling your story.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with the Tyler. Get back on the Tyler thing really quick. Is they show that even though there are all these kids that have had all these terrible things happen to him, his is the story where he's this kid, something atrocious happens to him. Because of that, he makes some really bad choices, and it crescendos up to here. But then these kids step in and help him, and like they show his growth. By the end of the 3rd season, he is a a well-adjusted person, you know what I mean? And that has come. They helped him, and they show how they helped him, which I think is so powerful, because I think, when you're dealing with these kids and school shootings and all the stuff that's going on, the most powerful tool these kids can do is just be there for each other. Yeah, you may not be their friend, you may not be close, but if you see somebody that's hurting, or you see somebody that looks upset, or somebody, talk to them, man. Find out if they need help. You know what I mean? Like, and that they push that a lot in the show, of like how these kids from all different walks and different cliques eventually come together as this group of friends because they just started giving a shit about each other. You know what I mean? The one kid, the main character Clay, is just like, fuck it, I'm actually going to care about all these people, and like starts portraying that, and it ripples throughout this group of people who become these intensely close friends over the 3 seasons. It's an amazing show, dude. There are some powerful moments in that show that had me almost in tears. You know what I mean? Like where you can just feel that moment, like, oh my god, like I am so happy to see that on screen.
Yeah, I'm sold, man. Where did you start watching this?
It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original series.
I've got 2 points. First, to piggyback off this, something that my kids' grade school did that I think is just fucking, it fits right in with what you're talking about. They painted this bright purple bench outside on recess, and they called it the buddy bench. And if you're having a rough time, you go sit on the bench, and somebody will come over and play with you.
That is awesome.
That is fucking great.
That is fucking awesome, cool. Dude.
It's like, you're having a rough time, go sit on the buddy bench. Right. Somebody will come over and play with you. It's like, how fucking powerful is that? And we talked about this, and I want you to kind of explain this so that everybody out there gets it. Okay. Because I was really skeptical about watching this, and I still haven't watched it because I thought it would glorify suicide. I thought that this was sending the wrong message and might eventually proliferate suicides in younger kids. And you explained that to me.
Right. So, it did, like anything can have, it did have an effect. I mean, and this is why they put that disclaimer in front of the show, because when the first season came out, it didn't have the disclaimer. And I think, you had instances where people see things and they're affected by them emotionally. And I think, unfortunately, some people are trying to blame the show for some teenagers taking their lives. I don't think the show's to blame. I just think that those teenagers needed help but didn't get it. But like, they don't glorify the suicide. Like, they don't. Like, when they get to the point where the girl kills herself, it's so realistic. Like, when she takes the knife to her wrists and the grimacing on her face and the amount of blood and everything is so realistic. And the best, not the best part, obviously, because it's awful, but I have to throw so much props towards Kate Walsh, which I don't know if you've ever watched Grey's Anatomy or any of those shows. Kate Walsh is a famous actress. She's amazing.
Yeah, I've heard the name.
She plays the mother of Hannah Baker in the show, and like her visceral reaction to finding her daughter in the tub it's awe-inspiring. Like, I mean, you will watch this and like your heart is just ripped out of your chest when this woman walks in and finds her child in the tub. And like, they do a great job of showing the effect that taking your life has on everybody around you. And like how detrimental it can be. That kid Clay was fucked up for 3 seasons because of it. You know what I mean? Like they do a great job of doing that. I do think people probably looked at it and were like, making these tapes and doing this it's a cool idea, for lack of a better term. It's an interesting way to leave a suicide note, but I don't think the show glorifies suicide at all.
No,
it does
not one so bit. No,
it does not, man. And like,
no, I know what that looks like.
Yeah,
like in my 20s. And if you look like up the story, if you're not familiar with this movie, Nicolas Cage movie Leaving Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
I became obsessed with it, and a lot of people did. Like, I ended up watching that movie obsessively. I owned the soundtrack, and it's a syrupy trap to get into if you're at a very precarious moment in your life. Absolutely. And I was, and that movie hit me right at the right time. And you're talking about a guy that was drinking himself to death and hanging out with a hooker as hot as Elizabeth Shue. Holy shit! Like, that's how I wanted to die. I was like, this is the best way to die. I totally want to die like this. And it took me a while to get some distance from that.
Right.
And there's some forces that intervened in that way. I just got really lucky. Yeah. Like, that could have been a very seductive way for me to die. And that, in its of itself, I think a movie like that does encourage suicide with, out time.
Absolutely. People are going to latch onto it that way. And now, like, before every season, they have a disclaimer that plays at the very first episode that says, like, listen, the show is intense. If you're in a place,
it actually goes at the beginning of every episode and the end of every episode.
Well, at the end of every episode, episode, they talk about, they bring up 13reasonswhy.info, which is their website for people who are in crisis. Anybody that's in crisis, or if you are in crisis, here's a website where you can reach out and get information. But the first episode of every season, there's a disclaimer on the front where it's all the cast, and they're like, listen, dealing with crisis is hard, dealing with life is hard. They talk about it, and they're like, this show may not be for you. So if you're going to watch it with a family member, watch it with a friend. Talk about how you feel afterwards, because that's the most important part. And like the whole show is about talking about it, because talking about it makes it better.
100%.
So it's really good, man. I know how I'm pretty clear on how your mind works, and I think you will really love the show. I really
believe
do.
So you sold me.
I think so, man. It's great, and I suggest anybody out there to watch it, man. It's good. It's very informative. It does not glorify suicide, and it's a beautiful, through the looking glass kind of view of what our children are going through right now.
You kids are lucky in that way, and in that way alone, that there is more attention paid to this than ever before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but unfortunately, there's little being done about it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I mean, and that's the sad part. Because we're looking at it and we're going, that sucks, but we're not doing anything to fix it.
We're not doing anything to fix it, and it's the most like plastic, fake ass fucking time of the world.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
You can get by on a pose faster these days than you ever were able to before, and it's harder to convince people that it doesn't fucking matter, man. You know?
Right, exactly.
I try to explain to my kids, like, look, high school is probably, well, for me, it was one of the worst times in my, and there's some people that this is it. This is as good as it gets.
Oh, yeah. They spend the rest of their life trying to recapture that.
Yeah.
God, we would fucking run from that hall of mirrors. No, thank you.
And it's through the grace of the people in this room and the rest of the Lunatic Parade that high school didn't suck that much for me. I mean, but none of you guys were in my class.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
None of you guys were even in my fucking school.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I had to find that on my own because for the most part, my school was pretty fucking awful.
Right.
At least to the people that look like me.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Trent, you're from down there. You know all the dickheads I went to school with.
Dude, I know, man.
That's not a fun place for me.
No, dude, it's not a fun place for me either. I was the fat kid who was smarter than everyone else. So it's I blew the bell curve on every test, and all the girls liked me because I was cuddly.
You're still cuddly.
Thankfully, when I came back,
You took a lot of shit.
Thankfully, when I came back when I was 18, I was about 1.5 feet taller and a lot angrier. So, I didn't get fucked with as much my senior year as I did my freshman year. But
biology in school, there was two of us that he put. I loved Mr. Kaler. I miss him. He's passed on now, but that teacher influenced my life in ways that I can't even begin to describe. But at the bottom of every one of his bio quizzes, he put just an extra credit question. Well, I fucking love biology. I was answering the questions just because I thought they were fun.
Right, yeah.
By the time we got about 2/3 of the way through the class, I was scoring 125%, which meant he graded on a curve, which means at an 80%, you were failing his class.
Right, yeah.
He's like, you got to stop answering these. I'm like, going, but they're fun. He goes, then answer them on another sheet of paper and turn it in later.
Right, exactly.
And then I had to start tutoring people to get them from an 80%, which should be passing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, to speak to what you're talking about high school sucking, you know what, to quote one of my favorite films on the planet, high school sucks, but that's the point, surviving it, which comes from fucking Pump Up the Volume, which is one of my favorite movies on the planet, because that movie's all about that. And that movie
Happy
deals...
Time Harry, man.
Happy Harry Hard-On, man.
Yeah, Happy Harry Hard-On, that's what it was.
Yeah, because that movie deals with suicide as well. Like, there's a kid that takes his life in that film, and it talks about how shitty it is being a teen, but that's the point. The point is that it's supposed to be shitty, because you're supposed to survive it. It's to show you that you can get through it and move on and get to better things. But I think our version of shitty teen, which was Pump Up the Volume, is very much different than it is now.
Oh yeah,
You know
I wouldn't want to go back to high school.
Oh my God! If I was a teenager now, I can't even imagine
I'd
what
be
it
in
would
jail.
be like. Yeah, I couldn't even imagine what it would be like.
Try and picture
I'd have
me
hurt somebody.
this tall. I weighed 125 pounds. I had a
Right.
missing tooth and a mullet.
Right.
I did have friends, but we were all just as unfuckable.
Exactly. Well, dude, you and I would have looked funny because I was about, let's see, my freshman year of high school, I think I was 4'10" and weighed about 240. So, and had no facial hair, no nothing, and could do full length fucking calculus equations in my head. That was me in high school.
Right. I showed up with a group of girls to go see a horror movie one night. And there were 3 other girls, all of them very pretty. And by the way, Dad came in the room and he's like, wait a minute. We're sending these 3 girls out with a boy, just one boy to all these 3 girls? And, he's not doing it in a like, I'm the concerned dad with my shotgun. He was like jock dad having a go at a young nerd kid. Like, he didn't let it go out of his system. He's like, by the way, why are they driving you? Why aren't you driving them? And I was like, oh, well, I don't have a license. Oh, batting 1,000. He was like, you sure we want to let him go with this young stud? It was like the most humiliating fucking thing in the world,
That's just awful,
And
dude.
that was a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, that's the area we grew up in, though. You know what I mean?
Jock Dad's still not done.
I was scoring nearly genius level on all the IQ tests I'd ever taken.
Mm-hmm.
I could read, I don't know, 1,000 words easily, and had a 90% recall. I read the book once at the beginning of the year, and I'll pass all your fucking tests, and I won't even have to stay awake.
Exactly. But anyways, well, I think that was a great episode, guys.
100%.
Yeah,
That was amazing.
It was a lot of fun. So thank you guys for joining us. Once again, you can always find us at firsttablegaming.com. You can also find us by searching for Lunatic Parade on SoundCloud and Spotify. Hopefully, we're going to get on Apple here pretty soon. Woo! You can always find us also at First TBL Gaming on Twitter and at First TBL Gaming on Facebook. You can follow me, Trent, at Tilted Simeon FTG.
You can follow me, Stormy, at Stormy FTG. And if you guys have a mobile game that you guys want me to try out and talk about on the podcast, hit me up at Stormy FTG and tell me what your favorite game is.
You've got me at Dragon STYK FTG.
Right on.
You got me at Destroyer Curt on Twitter, man. Hit me up on there. Send me some weird shit.
Yeah. Send Curt
Well,
some.
you could get some weird shit after that one.
Yeah, we're gonna let
It's
that one
Twitter.
slide.
They said it's the sewer of the internet. So, and from what I'm following, there ain't no bottom. All right, hey, that's it.
Awesome.
Episode 9 in the can.
Exactly. Thanks,
Nerd out.
guys.
Talk to y'all next week.
Yep. See you later, nerds. That was a good episode, man.
Well, that's it for this installment of the Lunatic Parade Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to middle-aged white guys shoot their mouth off about nerdy crap. See you next week.